Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the City Council meeting. This meeting is now in session. Will the City Clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Warren. Here. Councilmember Harris. Here. Councilmember Hanson. Here. Councilmember Carr. Here. Councilmember Guerra. Here. Councilmember Chenier. Here. And Vice Mayor Jennings.
Here.
Councilmember Ashby.
Here.
And Mayor Steinberg.
I'm here. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Great. We're now at the Pledge of Allegiance.
We now have Councilmember Hanson, I understand you have someone to lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
I do. I have a very special student here today who's going to lead us in the pledge. Her name is Noor Ahmed. Nora, why don't you come up with Angie? I'll tell you a little bit about her before we do the pledge. She was a 7th grader when she started to wear the hijab. You can stand at the podium, please. And through that process of embracing her identity, she worked with First Tee and the golfing profession and the golfing sport to embrace that, but also is one of our most accomplished First Tee participants ever. And she achieved the ACE level, I believe, which is the highest national certification that First Tee has. And she'll be going on a golf scholarship next month to the University of Nebraska, Cornhuskers in Lincoln, right? Lincoln? It's a beautiful city. Angie, I believe, who's the president, executive director of First Tee, helped in that process, but we're all very proud of you, Noor. Proud of your success, and you epitomize Sacramento for who we are, who we want to be, and give us a lot of hope in the next generation of leaders. So we hope you come back after the University of Nebraska and join us either up here or in the civic community leading the city. So we'd love you to have us lead us in the pledge and then maybe say something afterwards.
Okay.
Thank you, Angelique. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Angie, do you want to just introduce
Yes.
Noor, and then very quickly we'll hear from Noor, and then I'll bring a certificate
so much,
down.
Mayor, and all the council for having us here today. So we're thrilled to be here. The First Tee, as you may know, is a youth development organization who reaches over 18,000 young people here in Sacramento. And it's not just golf. We teach way more than golf. We teach life skills, core values, and healthy habits, and Noor is one of our shining stars. Noor recently had a chance to speak in front of Congress on National Golf Day on April 26th. And this is only something that is done once a year, that there's a student recognized over the entire nation that gets to go speak at Congress. And so we're absolutely thrilled that she had this opportunity. She has been an amazing young person in our community, a great leader, and we're so thankful that you're recognizing her here today.
Thank you. Noor, would you like to say something to the council?
Yes, thank you so much for having me here today. If I'm being honest with you, a few years ago I never would have been able to stand in front of anyone and talk about anything. I was a really shy kid when I first joined the First Tee 10 years ago. In fact, I probably went through a whole year before I attended any of our life skills session because I was really shy. And I attended my first one actually because Angie took me by the hand and went through the life skills session with me. And through the First Tee, I've had so many mentors and so many peers that were great role models for me, who helped lead by example and show me where I could go. They played in the First Tee Open 5 years before I did and showed me what I needed to do to get there. I saw so many First Tee of Greater Sacramento participants and now alum go on to play Division I collegiate golf, and they were huge role models for me, and they set the path for me in being good academically, athletically, and volunteering throughout the Sacramento area. So I know the First Tee is looked upon as a golf organization, but like Angie said, it has helped so many youth develop their character and their values and then set them up for the rest of their life.
Thank you so much. I'm going to come down and give you a certificate on behalf of the council, and thank you.
I just took some, thank you. But then maybe to save some money. So anyways, the number's 35,000. I'll show it to you.
So Nora, we are all really, really proud of you. And as a former board member of the First TA, I want to let you know that you're following in a strong tradition, but you're also creating a very strong tradition for others to follow. We know you've learned all the lessons that are going to help you endure as you move to Nebraska, which is going to be quite a move for you. But we know that you're going to show those corn hustlers a thing or two about Sacramento and what we stand for, and we know that you're going to go there. And when it's all said and done, you'll be the #1 golfer, not only on that team, but in the entire conference. So we wish you the best of luck. We want to let you know that our support for you is unlimited. Whatever you need in order to continue your pursuit of excellence, we are all here for you. So the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nora, I wanted to just congratulate you as well for a couple of things. One for the golf and being the program, but also just expressing your culture with pride, you know, and not bowing to the pressures that exist in this world. And so I think you are helping to expand the consciousness of our society. And I will say that First Tee alumni are doing great things all over the place. I just happened to spend the last few days with one of the alumni who is now one of the highest ranked golfers in the world, Cameron Champ in Southern California. So I got back today, and he is also somebody that we're proud of. But I think you guys really help to show the dynamicism of really what the First Tee program has the potential to do and touch so many different people who are doing fantastic things and expressing their cultures as well. So congratulations to you. And as Vice Mayor Jennings has said, you know, whatever we could do to assist, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us, okay?
Thank you very much.
All right, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All the best. And maybe we'll see you up on this dais someday soon, huh?
We'll see. Thank you.
This is where dreams start. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it, Nora. Okay, before we go to our usual order of business, which is public comment on items not on the agenda, I note from our city clerk that there are a number of people who are signed up to talk about items 19 and 20, either as part of the consent calendar or as part of items not on the agenda. So I thought I would take a moment here to make an announcement in terms of what I'm going to ask the council to actually vote upon tonight. First of all, tonight is not an action item for items 19 and 20. It's what's called pass for publication, which is a formality that the council must adopt, if you will, just to have the debate. It's sort of like this U.S. Senate rules, right? You got to vote to have the debate.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but item 20 is a discussion item in this ordinance.
I'm sorry, I mean 18 and 19.
There you go.
Good, I'll get my numbers right, thank you. I mean, it's item 19, it's just 19. Okay, just item 19. It's like in the U.S. Senate where you have to vote, to start the debate, is what it is before you debate. And so tonight is not a decision in any way on these measures. But I want to say that when the council votes tonight to pass for publication, I'm going to request a motion. Of course, it will depend upon the entire council. They could view it differently. Ask them to make a motion to move forward the bulk of the package, but specifically to eliminate the sections relating to noise regulations and targeting residential picketing. The rest of the proposed ordinance will continue to move forward for deliberation at the council at the August 22nd council meeting. And I want to explain why, and I want to first commend and genuinely commend Councilmember Hanson, who has had the guts, frankly, to put forward a comprehensive set of proposals, controversial proposals, but without, somebody willing to raise the issues, then they never get discussed and debated. And like I say, I'm recommending that the bulk of the package move forward for deliberation, specifically the pieces on aggressive panhandling and maintaining decorum and civility in our public parks, and some of the other items. And on the issue of residential picketing, nobody wants to be picketed. I don't frankly think it is a respectful or right way to go about making your voice heard to an elected official. That's just my opinion. Excuse me, we maintain decorum in the chamber. If you want a chance to speak, you'll get a chance to speak. I want to finish what I'm about to say. But I am recommending that we remove those provisions from consideration, not referred back to committee. We simply withdraw them because I know Councilmember Hanson doesn't want to, and I don't want to, and I don't think anybody wants the city to signal, even inadvertently, that peaceful protest and picketing should be discouraged in any way. That's an American principle, it's a Sacramento principle, and so, depending upon the vote of the council in a few minutes, that piece will be withdrawn. So those of you, I see men and women from the Carpenters in Action and elsewhere, you're welcome here. Welcome to the chambers. But if you come up and testify, which you're welcome to do, or anybody else, you should just know that that is the intention here going forward tonight. All right? Thank you. Let's begin with items the public comment on items not on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. I have 15 speakers for items not on the agenda. The first is Daniel Yorkiska. Correct. Following Daniel is Sin Marie. Following Sin Marie is David Andre.
Damn it.
When do I start?
Go ahead.
Mayor, council members, thank you for having me. I'm here today to let you know on October 5th of 2015, I was downtown enjoying myself. I do not drink alcohol because I have epilepsy. So I was downtown enjoying myself on a quiet, nice evening. I walked in a crosswalk on my turn and I got hit by a taxi cab. I rode on the hood of the taxi halfway down the street before the taxi driver realized that I was on his hood and made an immediate stop. I rolled off his hood, he backed up and took off and went down the street. But I had some intelligent people with me that got the picture of him, the picture of the license plate, and the picture of the taxi cab and the 4-digit code. I have gotten attorneys over the past almost 2 years, and the attorneys have fired me because they have told me that they can't do anything because they can't make any money because the taxis, this particular taxi company does not have insurance. And I also went to the DMV and filed my half of the accident, which is, I guess it's called an SR1, showing that I was hit in an accident. And I come to find out that that taxi cab did not have insurance on that particular day and was also registered non-operation. So I'm wondering if the whole taxi company is like the same way. Are they operating in your city with making money and stuff like that, but not following the rules all the way? And how about the driver that hit me, okay? He just drives away and nothing happens to him, but I'm taking blood clot medicine now, and I have been for almost 2 years because of deep vein thrombophlebitis. And I have filed, in fact, the night that it happened, the police department was called, and the police never came after 2 hours, so I just went home myself. I was able to drive. I took my drunk buddy home, and then I drove myself to the Mather VA emergency facility. They let me go after a few hours with multiple contusions,
Okay.
but after...
Sir, your time is up. We'd be happy to have one of our staff members talk to you in the back of the chamber, and maybe we can help you, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Sin Marie. Following Sin Marie is David Andre, and then Robert Copland. Do I have Sin Marie? David Andre? David? Robert Copland? So Robert Copland. Following Mr. Copland is Ron E. Millsy.
Well, I have had it with the city council here in Sacramento. Today, I was at a rally, press conference, and we tried to give a letter to each one of you in opposition to the residential picketing, and we couldn't go up to see any of you. How can we trust you and we get involved and you support us if you don't support us? We don't support you. And as far as you have done nothing about the homeless issue, the poverty issue in Sacramento, the police going after shooting the black people, you have done nothing. Why should we support you? You know what I like to see personally? Each and every one of you get recalled. A recall election. Because this city council is doing worse than the 49ers did last year and the San Francisco Giants doing this year. You have done nothing to support Sacramento.
That is a real insult, by the way.
Yeah, it's an insult to the 49ers and the Giants, by the way. Thank you.
A good comeback. That was good. That was a good comeback. Okay.
Our next speaker is Ron E. Millsy. Following Ron is Mac Worthy. Ron?
Okay, we'll
Next
make
speaker is
sure
Mac
everyone
Worthy.
gets a chance to speak who's signed up to
Worthy.
speak. Okay?
Following Mr. Worthy is Eric Frame.
Good afternoon, panel. After attending the swearing-in of the police department, I thought he would be here, but I think I left enough to get him to please come to me. I don't want to see that boy's reputation damaged. You all are going to damage his reputation. Same way the mayor come in. I hadn't talked to him in a long time. He got a wife and 2 kids, but with his credentials out, I went on to the FBI, the CIA. Now, when we went to Oak Park, it was critical. Feed black folks, they're just like hunting dogs. When they're full, we didn't see one table in that park that a black person was in charge of. We didn't have black policemen there until a few people now start talking. People, wake up. I don't want to see that boy's reputation damaged. But meanwhile, I'm going to be leaving because I need to help Donald Trump. I'm going to be going to South Carolina to the Willis Plantation because I got a daughter in Charlottesville University, an engineer major, and I got a lot to say. When you have a constitution is what you're all trying to get rid of, we don't care what you're a member of, you have a right. And that right was violated in Virginia. Good, we got a good man in Department of Justice. He's going to burn it out. And I was asking people to go back for Milwaukee and appeal that case on Mike getting killed. You'll see something. Black people, wake up. As long as you don't know what's going on, it's critical. Subsidizing insurance companies, the same thing you're doing here, subsidizing businesses in the city. That's the reason black people cannot go into business, because you got little businesses subsidized and nonprofit organizations handing out $2 or $3 for nonprofit organizations. We got to quit, people. Black people, you got to pull up by your own bootstrap. It's time out. When we get the energy, why we all have all Asian girls calling us, that's by you raising the utilities and hiring another company and who to put on the phone. I don't want it to continue on my phone. Tell you now. That's the same thing of Parks and Recreation, and we want Han to understand the problem here is y'all, Parks and Recreation, the police department subsidizing Parks and Recreation. That's where your problem, and you're going to have your problem coming out of black folks.
Good, thank you. Next.
My next speaker is Eric Frame. Following Mr. Frame is Kevin Carter.
I'll do David Andre first. He's here.
Mr. Andre, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm going to read a statement, and I hope some other people also read this same statement because it's very pertinent. Urgent priority, human right to rest. Why have the city and county closed public bathrooms? Why have the city and county shut off drinking water fountains? Why is the city proposing ugly new ordinances against panhandling and sleeping in alcoves? Why do the city and county spend millions to threaten, cite, arrest, displace, and jail homeless people who have nowhere else to go? Why do the city and county deliberately increase the trauma of homelessness by refusing to immediately open the way to safe ground? Homeless-led communities, whether tiny houses or tents, will take anything. Why don't the city and county move forward with rent control and eviction protection when every skyrocketing rent increase results in families and individuals ending up in the streets? Why don't the city and county advocate, plan, and fund and actually implement comprehensive solutions instead of initiatives and programs that intentionally and repeatedly fall short? 13,000 homeless residents can't get decent jobs or afford rents, even by the low official count. The number of people living outside has exploded by 110% in the past 2 years. No one even counts the families living in cars. 75,000 are waiting for Section 8 subsidized housing. No new low-cost housing is being built. Developers are the ones who have the influence. Just look at the arena that cost hundreds of millions. The initiatives launched by the city and county do not meet the need. Everyone knows this, but they assure us that progress is being made. We don't see it. Government does far too little to address the trauma of thousands that live without stability, safety, or housing right here in Sacramento. Let's all raise the questions and demand the answers tonight. Thank you very much.
My next speaker is Eric Frame. Following Mr. Frame.
David? Thank you for your testimony. You've got a bag down here. And I also know that you have copies that you may want to leave for the council members so that we can follow your testimony, if you'd like to leave that with the clerk.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
My next speaker is Eric Frame. Following Mr. Frame is Kevin Carter.
Hello. I got something here to look at for the audience if you want to put it up on the big screen. Okay. So while Sacramento is criminalizing the poor, we are also number 2 in the nation in child trafficking, according to KCRA 3. The FBI calls Sacramento the hub of child trafficking. I went to the final budget hearing on June 13th, where the DA gave her presentation, and she dedicated less than $100,000 to the investigation of human trafficking. If we're the hub of child and human trafficking, why does the DA devote less than $100,000 to its investigation? I was also told by a cop friend of mine and another friend of mine that the city itself only has 2 people investigating the child trafficking. Is that true? You guys work for the city. Maybe you can tell me if that's true. I heard a yes from the audience. I'll take it. So why, if we're the hub of child trafficking, according to the FBI, and second worst in the nation, according to KCRA 3, why do we only have 2 people investigating it in this city? Seems pretty strange, almost fishy. Okay. Okay, like I said earlier, meanwhile, the city of Sacramento is criminalizing the homeless and the poor. We need to repeal the unconstitutional and inhumane no camping ordinance because it's unconstitutional and inhumane. Repeal that, get those cops looking into the child trafficking instead of arresting the poor for being poor. Where's Mr. Steinberg?
Thank you, Eric.
Where's Jay Chenier?
Thank you very much.
Where are your faces when the
me,
public are
Eric.
talking,
Excuse
Mr.
me, Eric.
Guerra?
Excuse
Where
me,
are they?
Eric.
They're in your phones. That's where they're at. Come on!
So for the purposes of the rest of the, for the audience, for many of you who don't come here on a week-to-week basis, this is public testimony. This is the opportunity for you to come to the microphone and make a statement to us. It is not an opportunity for us to interact and answer questions back and forth. So I just want you to know, as questions are being asked of us, this is not the time for us to answer them back. So if you will come to the microphone, you have 2 minutes to speak. We encourage you to speak, get your point out, but don't expect a response back from us, okay? Thank you very much. Next, please.
Ben Marie?
Yes. Hello, Sacramento. I would like to talk about the conditions for women, issues about women. Conditions in downtown Sacramento for women to have access to showers and other resources need improvement. For example, various agencies such as Loaves and Fishes Agency, there are women that can only have the opportunity to take showers during certain times of the day, and when they arrive, there's a limited number of numbers they can have on a list between an hour maybe in the day. After that, the rest of the women are turned away for the rest of the day, regardless of their hygienic needs. Sometimes women are treated unfriendly, and sometimes their items are stolen in these types of agencies, and there are not enough staff around to know what's going on. These things are very tough for women in Sacramento. Other agencies allow women to only use their showers if they're enrolled in their 60-day residential program. However, it is hard to get into these programs because of the long wait list and the very strict requirements in order for them to be accepted in these programs. Other programs have only limited resources for women and only on particular days. Women are treated harshly in some of these agencies, and sometimes they are not given any help at all and not given some other accommodation for their needs to be met and for them to feel safe and welcome. There is definitely a need for better resources and quality services for women in the downtown Sacramento area. Women are discriminated against, scolded like they are children, and sometimes they're not even able to call for help should an emergency arise in downtown Sacramento. Sometimes emergency response representatives refuse to help women. They hang up in their faces and even threaten them to not call back. At nighttime, on weekends, sometimes emergency people in the fire departments refuse to drive women to the emergency room.
Can you give me your final comments, please?
Okay. There is a need for change for women in Sacramento to be treated better in the downtown area. There's just no excuses for the problems that are happening for women.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My next speaker is Kevin Carter. Following Mr. Carter is Frank Topping, and then Fago.
City council members, co-mayor, and wherever the real mayor is, I feel that this is very unjust when he's not here and we speak on public comment. I think that everybody should be in here and should be paying attention. The most important thing I want to say today is the brothers behind me, they're wearing something that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King acknowledged in our lives. When we remain silent to the things that matter, our lives begin to end. But one of the things that we haven't been in this room is silent about the things that matter. And my concern, and deeply engraved in that concern, is when you will take up the concern of these things that matter. As we continue to march and protest and come here to redress our grievances on the civil level to get to the state and federal level of things, but everything evolves here in this room. And until you guys can give us that respect, we will receive that respect. The last person in this state that made history and made this state great was James Marshall. He found a gold coin. He found gold. It was in the year of January. And that's when everybody came with tin pans and shovels and became the pioneers of this state to make it what it is today. Well, January 13th of 1983, I found that same gold. And I'm going to leave you with the poem of that same gold. The coin that I found January 13th was a 1909 double eagle St. Gaudens. And the 19 double eagle St. Gaudens holds to the interests of this state and the people of this state. We are the reflection, not the Golden One Center, but us. But I found a coin of gold. It had the year 1909 and it was full of hope. This coin I found in its mystery. This lady stood for our history and the birthright of our democracy. This coin I found, I will always claim. It is for the people to see of its natural remains. You see, it's a gold coin of liberty that holds the reflection and interest of all. May it remain and teach us all. And may the Spirit of God join us all so we as a people shall never fall.
Thank you, sir.
My next speaker is Frank Topping. Following Mr. Topping is Fago and then Nikki Jones.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, City Council. I would like to say that I'll join those that are disappointed that we don't have full attendance of the City Council here at public comment. There's some things that we have to say that are awfully important and should get your undivided attention. I did email Councilmember Schenauer and Angelique Ashby earlier, among other people, about a presentation that was done by CBS about a child that's out there in a prospective foster child waiting area out here in our north area. That you would expect, okay, maybe she's going to be there overnight, maybe 2 or 3 days. To be there 365 days is absolutely unconscionable. I lost my video here a minute ago, and I'm in pain. I came from Mesa where I was asking for surgery. Can't do it because it'd kill me. August 23rd, area congregations together is stipulating Mayor Steinberg's presenting on our homeless mitigation plans at St. Mark's UMC. I mentioned the article on CBS. The child stayed there for 365 days, sometimes on an air mattress, sometimes just on the floor. And this was at the Children's Receiving Home, if I'm not right, on Auburn Boulevard. Okay. At this August 23rd area congregations together presentation, I would expect Mayor Steinberg to emphasize that there are responsible things we can do, like First Step communities that have responsible leadership that could solve this problem right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank.
Our next speaker is Fago and then Nikki Jones.
So because we have so many speakers tonight, I'm going to ask everybody to please stay within their 2 minutes. I'm going to try to be as generous as possible, but out of respect for every speaker, I'd like you to stay within 2 minutes.
So today, I'm going to speak a little bit about Charlottesville, and also about Sacramento. What's on my phone right now is video footage of the individual who was stabbing people here in Sacramento last year that the city has still done nothing about. Yet, our mayor has the audacity to get up there and speak at a vigil for the individual that was killed by a car in a terrorist attack in Charlottesville, Charlottesville. Yet, here it is, right here in Sacramento, people getting stabbed. You can clearly see his knife, you can clearly see his arm. He was identified within 2 days by the public. Yet, according to your district attorney, they can't figure out who this guy is. And then we have a mayor that decides, oh, I'm going to go speak in honor of this person that gave their life fighting against fascism. Right? And then he's going to claim that both the left and the right are wrong in this, which is a straight disrespect to that individual. And you wonder why people shouted him down. He's criminalizing the homeless. He's getting worse and worse with the policies he's trying to push. He's not doing anything for the public. He's gaslighting us regularly. We are tired of it. We are tired of seeing these things happening in Sacramento. We've got officers murdering young black men in our city, and they're getting badges. And then you want to try to say that you're against this fascist mentality that's going on. This is appalling. It is a disrespect to the public. It is a disrespect to the people that are actually out there fighting against this fascism. And you can expect more getting shouted down if you continue these kinds of attitudes. Thank you.
My next speaker is Nikki Jones. Following Nikki is Armando Flores, and then Trina Allen.
Hey, so I really hope, firstly, that we pull the entirety of 19 off the consent calendar and have some discussion around the anti-aggressive panhandling ordinance. I'll talk about it later, but we do not have a safety issue that's leading to this. This is coming from, this is an extension of class war. It's not surprising to me that Steve Hansen put together. I'm just saying a fact.
Nikki?
Yeah. You're using my time, so
right,
stop it.
I'll stop your time.
Go
I'll
ahead.
give you all the time you need.
Yeah.
All right, but we're not talking about item 19 right now.
For sure, and I'm not.
These
and
are
I'm
items,
not.
you
and
started
I'm
off
talking,
with 19.
For
and
sure.
these are for items not on the agenda.
Right.
And I've asked you
Thank
repeatedly.
you so much for the explanation about how things run here.
Excuse me, Nikki.
Go ahead, keep going.
Excuse me, because I don't want to overtalk you, and I know you don't want to overtalk me.
I don't.
Okay?
I don't, so why did you?
So, because I'm trying to get some protocol here.
Right.
And so the
That you
first
think
thing we talked about is 19. We're not on that subject matter. These are items not on the agenda. And two, I would ask you to refrain from calling out any council member or any.
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish what I was saying, because perhaps the nuance of it cannot be communicated in 2 minutes, but the understanding that it's about the way and where from you are governing that is the problem here. That this specific ordinance, matched with these other specific ordinances, speaks to a position from which you are coming down on the people. You are bringing class oppression, race oppression, gender oppression onto the people with these types of ordinances, and it's super, super problematic. So I'm going to speak on that issue, but I wanted to say that separating these two things out, as the mayor has proposed to do, will not stop us from standing up for the constitutionally protected right of people to meet their needs, to ask for money to meet their needs in public space. That is a use of public space that we will all continue to fight for. So now I'm going to share a poem, because that's what I came for. I wrote this maybe like 5 or 6 years ago when I had a different idea about civic engagement when I started to come here. You've said it in our hearts, America. Democracy. You are responsible for convincing us each of our freedom, our right to it, and our need for it. I was made, and for God's sake, to pledge myself to liberty and justice for all my brothers and sisters I've watched strive towards dead ends, my mothers and fathers I've felt struggle, bear too heavy oppression, sons and daughters too distracted, to hope for liberty and justice. Now America, bring it to bear, denounce rhetoric, long bringing death. Reality demands liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Nikki.
Good evening, Council. I would appreciate if everybody paid attention when we come up here and speak, the way you guys expect us to respect you, respect us. It is embarrassing to see that you guys are chit-chatting to each other, reading your phone, or looking at the screen, when we're trying to make you understand something, do you not speak the same language that we do? That you need to look at something completely different to ignore us? This is too long. This council has been 8 months in this year. Nothing has been done to change problems in the city. The homeless are still without bathrooms and water. Right. And the city is complaining about them defecating on the streets. How do you expect them not to? You ran a pilot about bathrooms, mobile bathrooms that didn't work because you made it too expensive to run. You put it in an area where it did not belong. There was nobody in the area where those bathrooms were. That's why you only got 60 to 70 people to use it. It's embarrassing what you do. And we have a really good mix up here, women, all kinds of race, different races of people, all kinds of ages. Yet you don't accept that in our public, you don't accept that in our city. You want the city to be a first-class city, but you don't supply anything that the people need. You don't even pay attention. And when you sign up for this job, you become a public figure. Do not try to tell us not to come to your neighborhood and picket. That is not acceptable. And we shouldn't be told where we can boycott or protest or whatever. That's a right for every single person in this nation. You should not try to take that away from us, regardless of who wants special privileges for their area or their neighborhood or their person.
Thank you, sir.
You are a public person. Remember that.
Thank you.
When our streets run with the blood of black bodies killed by law enforcement sworn to protect and serve, when our communities are lined with unhoused folks being harassed for surviving extreme poverty, when our courtrooms and jails are overflowing with black and brown bodies funneled into cages whose doors never really open again, when our schools teach tolerance even as they force out black children from their classrooms, when it is easier to self-medicate than it is to find adequate health care, and when our housing is so expensive and unstable that developers become the only profiteers of our labor, we need to acknowledge that white supremacy is not even remotely new. Thousands of torch-wielding Nazis shouldn't be necessary for you to be outraged. The atrocity of Black Death has been institutionalized for centuries, from enslavement to the prison industrial complex. This has always been us. Sacramento, we are no oasis. Folks want to hold vigils, collectively grieve, shout "not in my city," and denounce the rise of the hyper-racist right. Too late. Nazis have already plundered our capital, and prevention is long past. They came last year with knives, planned for violence, and stabbed people of color and trans folks. 3 anti-fascists who defend their lives are currently sitting on felony prison charges. Only one Nazi is facing trial, and not for the attempted murder that he committed. If this diocese is horrified with sorrow in Charlottesville, you will show your solidarity at their next court date by demanding they be freed. Even deeper, acknowledging the poison of white supremacists in the private sector, while still slurping down the fruits of white supremacy in our local governmental institutions, is as misguided as it is dishonest. Sacramento area law enforcement agencies have been killing and brutalizing the black community members at unprecedented levels. This council and board of supervisors refuse to take a meaningful stance against this abuse while utilizing police power to enforce your gentrifying ways. No, Mayor Steinberg, you don't get to condemn white supremacy groups enacting violence on communities of color and anti-fascists if you aren't also ready to revolt against your own perpetrators of violence. White supremacy cannot be disavowed as it is simultaneously enacted.
Can I get your final
Instead
thought,
of
please?
challenging these injustices, you propose draconian ordinances to increase state violence and oppression of the most marginalized folks while doubling down on limiting our ability to redress grievances with you.
Can I get your final
Your
thought, please?
elitism, your comfortability, these do not come before your constituents' lives, and you need to make a change.
Our next speaker is Aaron Domingo. Following Aaron is Ron Emsley. I have Aaron or Ron.
She just said it all.
Items not on the agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. We now, so, Ron, oh, we do have Ron is here. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay, there's a whole bunch of discussion about black people being negatively impacted by the police. I live in Oak Park, and we have quite a few shootouts. I never catch the people. They're almost all African American.
Get the fuck out of here. Excuse me, I'd like this young woman removed from the chambers. I'd like her removed from the chambers. There needs to be decorum in the chamber. You need to leave, please. Thank you very much. Please continue.
Okay, I believe we had, last Saturday, we had, I believe it was 4 African Americans that were wounded, drive-by. So.
Yeah, fuck you guys, I'm going to. Racist! 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 Racist!
There'll be order in the chamber if you want to shut up. Excuse me. We need to remove the young woman in the back as well. Thank you very much. Let's continue, please. Everyone gets a chance to speak. Go ahead.
Okay, so the African Americans in Oak Park are the ones that are suffering. I believe we've had something like 3 or 4 murdered this year. It never makes the paper when they're wounded. And I wanted to discuss how we consider the police. In Stockton, the police budget for the public safety is 75%. The fire budget is 25%. That's a 3-to-1. San Francisco, it's 61-39. That's a 2-to-1. Let's see. In Long Beach, it's 71-29. That's a 2-to-1. Oakland, that's a 66-34. 2-to-1. Fresno, that's a 76%-28. That's 3-to-1. Sacramento is unique. It's 55%-45%. And what's wrong with that? The only difference is we have a real strong firemen's union, Local 522. And they tend to know how to put their candidates, support them, mass mailings, things like this. They come to budget workshops while on their clock and watch it. The police union doesn't do this. So, I think that there should be campaign finance reform, because people that are boosted by Local 522, I believe that that's unfair. Thank you.
Thank you very much for testifying. Appreciate it. Okay, so that are the items not on the agenda. Now we move to the consent calendar, and we do have, how many speakers on the consent calendar?
I have 3 speakers for
Three
the consent
speakers,
calendar.
please.
First one is Mac Worthy. Following Mr. Worthy is Robert Coplin and Frank Topping.
People, mainly this is an education item.
The consent calendar is 1 through 18. Excuse me one second. Excuse me, Mr. Worthy, just a second, please. I just want to clarify something here. The consent calendar is 1 through 18?
These are 1 through 18, and then I will call up 19 as a group.
19 will be called up separately. That's fine. Okay, 1 through 18. Please proceed. We'll start the clock again, Mr. Worthy. Go ahead. You got 2 minutes.
People, this is an education item. Now, we noticed that the majority of the people here on this panel came through the Board of Education. Now, what we see that the last guy left District 6 was on the board of League of California Cities. Now, it's a conflict of interest for Hanson to go because these people had no voice in who to represent from this panel. Long legs is your problem here. You got some attorneys here who want to do law and don't have the ability to practice private law. From behind closed doors is what you're doing, the reason you have this. People at the League of California is a lobbyist, one of the biggest lobbyists in America. That's the reason that 11% of property tax went for years, people, the legal California. I was there for 28 years cleaning the office of the previous manager of this city. I know. People, this is rigged. You can't go nowhere with that type of thing you should have the people to say who's going to represent them over there instead of Hanson. Hanson, it should be a conflict of interest, and you have a law degree. Maybe you want to go somewhere else, but if I were you, I would turn it down and go another route, because we cannot continue to see the city go down the tube. We can't not do. We're going to see some money taken, and I'm going to help Donald Trump drain this swamp. That's the reason I'm being in South Carolina to some of the German people that's part of my bloodline, of the KKK, and get some real representative of Mac Brothers' idea in Washington, D.C., because this state is behind. Confederate people, when you deal with law, you got to accept the Constitution. You are denying the Constitution here, but yet still you are stacking the deck. That's what this administration do. Stack the deck with the little Californians, which is a lobbyist people. You can go to those meetings. The guy from LA is the director over there. Get over there and go to those meetings. When they come and show up and voice your opinion, I'll be out of state for a while.
Time is up.
And next speaker is Robert Copeland, and then Frank Topping.
I see the Sacramento City Council wants to give some money to Sacramento Steps Forward. Is there going to be an audit where that money, how it's going to be spent? Like, is it going to help the people that, the homeless people in Sacramento? Or is it going to be on staff, furniture, and stuff like that? And how many people are going to be helped actually by Sacramento Steps Forward? That, I don't know the answer to that. Can you tell anybody? Or can we find out? Thank you.
Next speaker is Frank Topping. Following Mr. Topping is Fabrizio Sasso, and then Hannah Williams.
Okay, I just should emphasize that 19 is part of the consent calendar, but we're going through the witnesses by consent items. So after Mr. Topping, we will get to all the speakers on the pass for publication item that I discussed at the beginning of the meeting. Okay.
I'd like to, well, first of all, I'm not signed in for number 1, I'm signed in for number 3. But otherwise, I would oppose Councilmember Hanson for the voting member to the League of California Cities. I don't believe you would be as responsible as need be to present to them that
Mr. Topping, please address your comments to the entire City Council, okay? Thank you.
Okay. That'd be hard to reword. We need a little less elitism. We need to recognize that there's responsible ways to handle homelessness. We need the governor encouraged to declare a shelter crisis statewide. Responsible programs like First Step communities need to be supported, and they need to be advertised that they are available for other communities in the state. However, with the loan or the monies proposed for Sacramento Steps Forward, the money is for the mitigation of homelessness. And the coordinated entry system, which has so far proved to be an absolute bust. It hasn't worked. I would hate to see, instead of responsible solutions like First Step communities, I would hate to see more studies employing more analysts and nothing responsibly being put forward. We need a little less elitism.
Thank you.
That's
Thanks
for
a
the
lot,
whole
Mr.
city
Topping.
council.
Thank you for your work on the mental health board. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Next speaker is Fabrizio Sasso, then Hannah Williams, and Craig Cook.
These are all item 19.
Item 19. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Fabrizio Sasso. I'm the Executive Director of the Sacramento Central Labor Council. Mayor, I want to thank you for asking the council to withdraw pieces of this ordinance this evening. I've shared some of our concerns with all of you, and so we urge you to vote to strike down these pieces. I want to thank the council members that I've spoken to who've also shared some of their thoughts and comments on this, and we're glad that you're asking to withdraw this ordinance. There are a number of tactics we can use when we protest and we picket, and sometimes it requires us to picket at people's homes if they are business owners and do not use a PO box and don't have an actual place of business. We use it rarely, sparingly, and so the use of these tactics are required, but we want to be conscious about them. Different times call for different tactics. In times of war, you kill. In times of struggle, you fight. And in times of peace, you love. This weekend at City Hall, we had a vigil, and that was not permitted. And so we're asking that you also consider removing the restrictions on the use of City Hall. That piece should be included as well. And this is an important time for free speech in this country, in the time of Trump, who's trying to limit the media's ability to speak freely and also people's ability to speak freely. I personally, I consider myself a troublemaker. I take great pride in being called a troublemaker. There are a lot of troublemakers in here tonight. And Cesar Chavez was a troublemaker. He marched through Sacramento, he used the bullhorn, and he was able to advance his cause as a result. And so we don't want to stifle the next Cesar Chavez who is in this room tonight.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
So thank you very much.
The People's Chamber, and Mr. Troublemaker, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Speakers Hannah Williams, Craig Cook, Annabelle Vera.
You kicked out Hannah, so I'll be speaking. My name's Craig Cook. I'm a longtime resident of California. I've been within the city of Sacramento now for 3 years, and the county of Sacramento for the last 15. This is enough. There cannot be any more action against homeless people until we actually address the problems affecting them. You're charging them fees and fines for what? What are they going to pay you? What are they going to give you that you haven't given them? Which is a chance and need and want. If you go walk down the street, if you get these complaints from people coming out of our city, coming in here, and saying that we look like trash, we look terrible because of our homeless situation, why are you addressing it aggressively instead of defensively? Show those people what you can do and what you can change. Instead of relying on attacking the homeless and making them a problem, look at yourselves, see how you can help. I'm doing that today as a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, and I'm sick and tired of you guys attacking the homeless people. But I do thank you very much for removing the picketing and protesting parts of the amendment.
Thank you.
Yes.
Next speaker is Craig Cook, and Annabelle Vera, and Kevin Riley.
My name is Annabelle Vera. I'm with the Democratic Socialists of America. The last time I addressed City Council, I was opposing moving the time of public comment to 4:30 p.m., a time when working Sacramentans cannot participate. Today I came here to oppose the ordinance restricting free speech in the form of residential picketing. Considering these two items, I detect a clear pattern. Sacramento City Council is effectively and intently denying their constituents the right to free speech and hindering their civic participation. When Sacramentans speak out at City Council or hold protests and demonstrations, we do it in earnest as our beliefs, concerns, or fears compel us to speak. This ordinance, on the other hand, is a direct retaliation by City Council against community activists such as BLM or ACE. It's undemocratic, It's biased, and I think it's petty. I urge you to follow through with striking these items, and better yet, strike this entire ordinance in consideration of the rights of our unhoused citizens. Thank you.
Next speaker is Kevin Riley, then Matt Gaugen.
Hi, my name is Kevin Riley. I'm a business analyst and programmer in the Sacramento area. However, here today I'm representing the Democratic Socialists of America on item 19 of the agenda. I would like to thank you for removing the provisions relating to the restriction of free speech and picketing. However, the remaining items are still very problematic. Sacramento has not done a good job or put in really any significant effort to actually addressing the homelessness problem, in the sense that the homeless are people who need to have the actual welfare to live, like water, bathrooms, the right to rest, the whole ordeal. And rather than actually, like, say, having targeted welfare programs, we have instead just figure out ways to treat them like animals and like barricade them and corral them in other areas as undesirables. And so we should at least give them a human dignity and treat them as human beings, not just as like citizens of like Sacramento, but citizens of America and citizens of the world. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to testify.
Matt Gaugen, and then Ron Elmsley.
Matt. Nice to see you, Matt.
Likewise. My name is Matt Gauger, and I cannot write legibly, so the clerk has done her best. My name is Matt Gauger. I'm an attorney here in Sacramento, and I represent labor unions. Among our clients are the Carpenters Union and various SEIU locals. And I'm speaking to urge your support of Mayor Steinberg's motion. I don't know if that's the right term of art, but to remove Article 10, which is Section 12 of the proposed ordinance. And it's pernicious for a reason that labor lawyers and constitutional law lawyers can appreciate, but often lay people can't. The definition of picketing is extremely broad, and it comes from an old case from 1988 called Frisbee that probably isn't good law anymore. I sent the city attorney a letter laying out our long technical view, but the short of it is the definition of picketing includes all protest. And then the other portion says you can't do that within 300 feet of a residence where you're targeting the people in the residence. The problem with that is there are a lot of mixed-use developments here in Sacramento, which are great, and if you leaflet in front of a mixed-use development and say, tell the owner of this development to hire contractors that pay area standards, you are targeting the residents in the development, and you are violating the statute. And that's clearly not what is intended. It's also clearly unconstitutional. And for that reason, we urge that you vote with Mayor Steinberg and remove this part of the ordinance from consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Garber.
Our next speaker is Ron Elmsley. Is Mr. Elmsley still here? And Eric Frame, Betty Williams. So Eric?
Let's see, Eric. Oh, he is here, okay.
Following Eric is Betty Williams, and then Paula Lomezi.
Lomezi. Okay. What's that? What's that?
I'm always here, Mr. Steinberg, don't worry.
You're doing great. Good.
The actions of, well, let me just break down some of your actions recently. Closed bathrooms, public bathrooms. I'll carry on by saying you also complain about all the shit in the streets, so it's kind of a little backwards there since you closed the bathrooms. All right, what else? The inhumane and unconstitutional no camping ordinance. Of course, almost forgot. You remove survival gear from people, and then you criminalize the poor, and some people freeze on the steps of City Hall, for instance. Oh, what else have you done? Oh, you shut off the water.
Mr. Mayor, point of order.
Public water?
Point of order, excuse me.
None of this testimony is on item 19.
Up my time, please.
Well, it does arguably relate to the aggressive panhandling piece of this, and it does
Please
relate to
stop my time.
homelessness. Oh, okay. I appreciate the comment. I'll let you continue. Go
All
ahead.
right, I'm going to take a few seconds at the end. What else did you guys do? Oh, okay. Oh, there's noise machines. I've heard them. They're on downtown to prevent the homeless from sleeping. Yeah, they're there. It's really crazy. All right. I've been living in Sac for quite some time, and I do see panhandling every day, basically on every street corner these days. And, I'm not afraid of said panhandler. I'm not afraid of them hurting me because I've been driving by them for years and years and years. So I'm not really afraid of them anymore, although I never was to begin with. But what I do feel when I see them on the streets is a lot of grief and, frustration because of this backward system that forces them to beg on the street.
Take 10 more seconds.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
So let's remove the, I'll talk about the item. Let's remove this ordinance idea, because you've already done so much to hurt us. So let's give us a little break.
Okay.
Let's repeal the no camping ordinance because it's inhumane and unconstitutional.
We've got the point.
And if we must, let's recall city council, I think, is the next step.
I wish you well.
You guys can be brave, though. You guys can turn around, tell your bosses, not this time, Not this time. This time we're not going to criminalize the poor. This time we're going to help human beings.
Thank you, Eric. Thank
okay?
you. Appreciate
You
it.
guys can turn around and do that. You can be brave.
Thank you.
My next speaker is Betty Williams. Following Ms. Williams is Paula Lamazzi, and then Rick Guerrero.
Thank you, Mayor Steinberg and City Council, for giving me this opportunity. My name is Betty Williams. I'm the president of the Greater Sacramento NAACP, the largest branch in the state of California. I did email several of you regarding this particular piece, and thank you, Councilman Warren, for responding back. I have concerns regarding everything that everyone else said, but in addition to that, it appears that there was additional language that was placed in there that you just did for good measure. One of the pieces that I'm concerned about is the piece regarding the Parks and Recreation, and if a person is verbally asked to leave, then you have them, there's misdemeanors, and there's fines anywhere between $250 to $25,000. There is a piece where it says that they cannot return within 24 hours. So, but I don't see an appeal process. I don't see a due process. I don't see in the event that if there's a group of African American males playing basketball aggressively in the park and another one walked past, that they were all asked to leave and not come back for 24 hours. There's no appeal process for someone that's innocent. For you to actually consider this, I think is appalling. I think you should look at the entire piece in its entirety, because you're going after the most vulnerable when it comes to the fines, the individuals that can't afford $250 to $25,000. And then there's, in some instances, you're not fining at all. It seems like you're attacking one group of people and laying off another group of people. So please look at this entire piece. And as it was written, it just appears that due process was not put in place for individuals to say, I didn't do this, I am innocent, I have the ability to appeal, and not to give me a misdemeanor. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for your good testimony. I mean, so just so you're clear, everyone's clear, the recommendation again is to remove the picketing pieces tonight. Next week to have a public hearing on the remainder of the issues and potentially make any amendments as appropriate or necessary, but it'll be up for the council to consider with the members of the public having a chance, just as you did tonight, to weigh in. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Excuse me. If you shout out from the audience, I'm going to ask you to leave, because that's not the way we accord ourselves here in this chamber. Everyone who has signed up to speak is getting a full chance to speak, and we're listening, and we'll continue to listen. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor and council members, I'm with Sacramento Homeless Organizing Committee, and we oppose any regulations that get against what people say or where they can say it. And that goes for, like, if somebody wants to say, "I love you," or can you spare some change? It's their business, and it shouldn't be the law's business what they say. And I just wanted to point out about the 35 feet limit from ATM machines and bank doors. I kind of paced it all out, and 35 feet can be across the street. And, you know, that's really not obstructive. And then 50 feet from a light rail or one of those ticket machines. And 50 feet from that, that's like almost a block away, a half a block away. I don't know, it's very far. So I just want to make sure that people are allowed to say what they want to say without regulations.
Next speaker is Rick Guerrero. Following Rick, Nikki Jones and Tamara Edge.
Those are the last speakers on the... Okay, we have a few more. Go ahead, Rick. Welcome.
Buenas noches, Mayor, council members. I am Rick Guerrero, and Steve Hansen represents me. I want to first of all thank you all, and Mayor in particular, for removing the attack on free speech ordinance. And I also call that you remove the restrictions to assemble at City Hall during non-business hours. I represent the Green Democrats of Sacramento County, and the Green Democrats, as my brothers and sisters also, we intend to ramp up our protests. We intend to ramp up our resistance. And so what I call upon all of you is, it's bad enough that we have a fascist person in the federal government, running the federal government. We do not need Democrats to restrict us. So please consider that, because the Green Democrats will hold you accountable to this. And we call on you to do the right thing and open free speech. We open free speech, not restrict it. I appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
With Ms. Jones's left, Tamara Edge, and then Carly Brannon. After Carly is Fago.
Hello, my name is Tamara Edge, and I'm the Director of Legal Services and Community Service at Loaves and Fishes. I am here today to ask you, as City Councilors, to vote down Sacramento City Code relating to aggressive panhandling. I work at the Tommy Klinkenbeard Legal Clinic alongside passionate lawyers and volunteers to serve the least in our society. Our clients range from homeless single mothers to the mentally ill to the broken veterans that cannot reintegrate back into society, and all the types in between. My clients are continuously marginalized and systematically targeted through oppressive ordinances that deem their quality of life needs are illegal and are criminally offensive to this society. I'm privileged to firsthand witness and assist in helping those who have been targeted by these mandates, from anti-camping ordinances to jaywalking citations, and this ordinance further goes to criminalize the poor. These laws were put into place to specifically target the homeless population, and this ordinance just further places them at the mercy of a justice system that neither understands them or supports them. Today I had a client who needed to get to a court date but had no funds. She chose to panhandle in order to get the funds that she needed to ensure that she could make her court date. She could have been ticketed for asking for money if this ordinance went through, only further placing a burden upon her and turning her need into something criminal. Rather, we should try to approach those who ask for help with compassion and recognize the humanity within the homeless. Are we not all beggars at some point in our lives? How many of us know firsthand people who ask for favors? From our local school system, churches, or employers. What about you who are sitting there on the city council right now? Have you never asked for financial support? What makes your needs any different? The only difference is that you have worth in the eyes of the law, in the eyes of the state, while those who beg out of necessity do not have value. Their needs and wants are not met due to a systematic failure impressive of the poor and downcast. Do you know what it feels like to beg? By voting yes on this ordinance, you will have to further criminalize the destitute. Instead, try compassion by composing laws that uplift the homeless, not ordinances that further prohibit necessary
Ms. Timmer,
life-sustaining activities.
Your time is up. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. You're welcome back.
Harley Brannon, Fago, and then Ray Vanderwerf.
January 25th, 2017, a press release was released about the sanctuary state issue that was going on. And Darrell Steinberg is quoted as saying, "The city of Sacramento is not in the business of bargaining away the civil rights of our neighbors and families for money." On October 13th, 2016, Steve Hansen said to the public, "To not listen is cowardice." This was said after the city council threw a tantrum and left these chambers because you did not want to listen to us. And you came back and told us to not listen is cowardice. That is why we were at your house. And you are the one saying to not listen is cowardice. You were the one to introduce this. That is absolutely asinine. It is ludicrous. And you, after saying that we do not bargain away the civil rights of our neighbors and families, and then you decried the protesters who shouted you down the other day outside of City Hall. And then you said the left is as bad as the right, when the left is the one that is fighting for our rights.
No, that is not.
It is time that we start looking for candidates to replace Darrell Steinberg and Steve Hansen. We need to recall both of them.
So once again, I have to reiterate, I was really appalled at your attempt to try to decry white supremacy while continuing to pass white supremacy-based ordinances such as these. For one, I'm glad you're taking away the no picketing part, because if you really don't want people picketing outside of your house, don't give them a reason to. Plain and simple. However, it's kind of hypocritical to say you value free speech in one sentence and then deny the free speech of the homeless. Well, do we not count as citizens? Do we not count as people? Or is it just that you really are trying to kill us? Because those of us living outside, that's what it feels like. That's what it seems like. You know, every day people come in to ask for help. There's a proposal been sitting for months for a tent city to alleviate some of this. And instead, what do? You move forward to further criminalize the function of asking for help, even though there's already an ordinance in place called the Soliciting Alms Ordinance that targets aggressive behavior while panhandling? I mean, this is the kind of thing I'd expect from Donald Trump. Not these people that claim to be the resistance. The real resistance is the people that are out here in the streets, the people outside your houses when you disrespect our black people and our poor people. You know, those are the people that are the real resistance. What I'm seeing in this city hall right now is stepping further and further towards the same fascism they claim to be fighting, as they criminalize the existence of the people they displace by not allowing rent control, as they give badges or awards to people for killing people. And yet, you want to say that one form of free speech, the picketing, is the only part you care about, but the free speech of those just trying to live doesn't count for you? Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Mr. Clark.
That is not free speech.
Mr. Clark, hold on just a second. Mr. Clark, I'd like to ask you a question.
Sure.
I know you come here every week to talk about this issue, and I understand that you are homeless yourself. Can we offer you some assistance in gaining you some shelter as soon as possible and permanent housing?
You know, there's a lot of people that need that a lot more than I do at this point, and I think you should focus on getting the services up and running so you can get everybody off the street rather than trying to bribe me. By the way, just to finish my statement on that, I'm sorry, I don't accept bribes from my city council.
Only intended as an offer of help. Go ahead.
Good evening, City Council. I do want to hope that you guys just generally vote this down in general, but I do appreciate that you are removing some parts that were just completely crazy to me. I know this technically doesn't apply to you, but I want to read it just so everyone hears it. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting free expression of therefore, or abridge the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redressing of grievances. And I think that's really important. That's our U.S. Constitution. That's our, it makes me sad that we're putting something in place that could infringe upon that. And when I actually Googled, I wanted to Google just to see what happened when I typed in city councils putting in petitioning limitations. They're all from states that we say we're resisting. They're all from people trying to stop people from having their rights, and I don't see our city that way. I see our city trying to help others, and I really, really don't see this helping anyone. In the panhandling part, I understand some people do get bothered. Sometimes people feel harassed, but this does more than just if someone's asking near a corner. Like, you know what? If you really are uncomfortable, just put your head down like most people do anyways. I at least say, you know what, I'm sorry, and I keep walking. And I understand it's uncomfortable for some people, but how do you think they feel? They're on the streets, they have nothing. And all I'm asking is that we don't even just get rid of this entire ordinance. I think it's really, really pushing us past what we as a city want. Thank you.
Jane Britton, Shahira Hyatt, and then Michael Sella. Mr. Britton?
Good evening, Mayor Steinberg, members of the City Council. My name is Shane Brenton. I live and work in Sacramento, and I'm a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. We support organized labor, Black Lives Matter, our houseless neighbors, tenants fighting for affordable housing, and all people struggling for justice. I stand with DSA and a broad People's Front here tonight that opposes restrictions on residential picketing and solicitation of funds in public places, as well as other anti-democratic and anti-poor provisions of the proposed ordinance. Enacting this at a time when Trump and the far right are consolidating power would be especially dangerous. I understand these meetings can be difficult for you. Actually, as a former council member and mayor of the city of Arcata, I faced criticism in the press for my support of the people's democratic rights. In 2010, I voted against an ordinance restricting panhandling in Arcata. It passed on a 3-2 vote, but it was challenged in court, and guess what happened? Most provisions were struck down, including prohibitions on solicitation near intersections, parking lots, bus stops, and retail stores. The law you will be considering includes similar prohibitions, and it is likely to meet a similar fate. In addition to public service, I have a background in labor organizing and representation. This is another area where the proposed ordinance violates democratic rights. Picketing of executives, investors, and public officials is a legitimate tactic in labor and community organizing campaigns. It is shameful, Steve Hansen, that an elected official would oppose this union-busting measure. Union buster, union buster, union buster, union buster, union buster, union buster. That you would propose this union-busting measure reminiscent of legislation and so-called right-to-work states. Mr. Mayor, when I was a mayor, I knew how to run a meeting.
Okay. Sir,
now I'd like to finish since you interrupted me.
Got two. Your time is up.
Now I understand that there are maybe resolution on this point.
Your time is up.
I suspect this is due in large part to the fact that House people with political power and union cards have raised opposition. Now I'm pleased to hear that some of you may be considering
your anger, but your time is up
on this portion of the law, but it doesn't solve the problem that you are targeting poor and houseless.
Remove the speaker from the podium. Thank you very much. Your time is up. Okay, you're done. You're done. He spoke. Let's go to the next speaker.
Next speaker is Shahira Hyatt, then Michael Sella, and Mark Rosso.
Any of those
Scarlett
witnesses
Bustos?
Here? If not, okay, let's move on, please. Starlet Bustos, are you here? Okay, please come on up. Take your time. So all those other three. Okay.
Scarlett Bustos.
Ms. Bustos,
Following Ms.
please.
Bustos is Kean Bliss.
Welcome to you.
And then Jane Manty.
Welcome to you.
Hi. Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Hello.
hi, Ms. Bustos. Go ahead.
Hi, City
Go ahead,
Council
I'm
members.
sorry. Go ahead.
My name is Scarlett Bustos, and I was one of the main organizers of Tax March here in Sacramento.
Okay.
I also just got off the phone with Jessica Browning, who was one of the main organizers of the Women's March in Sacramento.
Great event.
Yes, yes. And we would both like to add our organization's names, Tax March Sacramento and Women's March Sacramento, to the letter that you are going to receive from over 50 different organizations in the Sacramento area. I'd also like to share a letter from our Tax March Tax March National Director, to whom it may concern. As an executive director of Tax March, I am very concerned about the new
You have
ordinances.
2 minutes, so you don't have to read the whole letter. Why don't you summarize it, and we can read it. Go ahead, please. I'll put the extra time on. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I just want to.
Oh, sure. No, of course.
Have you used your 2 minutes in the best way?
Absolutely. No, I was
Okay.
done after this. Basically, the ordinances threaten to silence the voices of American citizens. And as a representative of a grassroots organization, she is writing to express her opposition in any attempt to trample the rights of citizens. And as part of Tax March, over 125,000 people exercised their First Amendment right to free speech and assembly when they spoke up, marched, and rallied in over 200 cities, including Sacramento, on April 15th to demand that Donald Trump release his tax returns and show their support for a progressive tax system for this country. The proposed ordinances in Sacramento threaten our citizens' constitutionally protected rights to speak up and to join together to fight for the things they care most about. Our country was built on a foundation of freedom, enshrining the rights of minorities to voice dissent. That Sacramento is trying to shut down and silence such voices is concerning to me and should be concerning to my fellow citizens. As public servants, you took an oath to protect the Constitution and the citizens of Sacramento, and I urge you to remember that oath now. Sincerely, Nicole Gill of Tax
Thank you very much, Ms. Bustos. We appreciate it. We'll ensure that the letter is part of the record, okay? Let's continue the public testimony. I know that our security is going to address the disruption from the outside. And anybody who interrupts from the audience, I'm going to remove, because that part of democracy is listening to other people in a council chamber that has decorum. Everyone has a chance to speak. That's not decorum. That's not democracy. That is no. Wait a minute. That is attempted anarchy, and it's not what we do here in the chamber. So go ahead. You're next. Okay. Who is that? Who is that? David. David, you're out. Thank you. You're out. You need to leave. Thank you, David. Go ahead.
Ian Bliss.
Honestly, I don't know what I could say that hasn't already been said great by Shane Brenton, Trina Allen, Nikki, everybody up here that's basically excoriating Fago. I mean, you're upset because people are outside like trying to get your attention, but really, I mean, you have been absolutely disrespectful by interrupting people, constantly micromanaging how they speak. I mean, I'm up here basically telling y'all you need to get rid of Ordinance 19. I think the majority of this room wants you to get rid of Ordinance 19. I think that people outside want you to get rid of Ordinance 19. Like, what more do you need to convince you to get rid of this dumb ordinance? Straight up. Like, I'm fairly new to Sacramento. I've only been here for a little over a year, California for 2 years. I come from a Republican supermajority in the Midwest, and trust me, this was the last kind of behavior I would expect from a supermajority and a supermajority Democrat state. It blows my mind, but apparently I am absolutely correct, and so many more people in the United States are absolutely correct when they think that Democrats and Republicans are two sides of the same coin being passed between the same corporate pockets. Straight up. I mean, we give more rights to artificial entities, incorporated for-profit entities, than we do ordinary citizens. We give them First Amendment rights to free speech, and including the right not to speak. We give them 14th Amendment rights to equal protection, inherent and inalienable rights for for-profit corporations. We give them Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable search and seizure that we have like black and indigenous people of color constantly being harassed on the street just for walking while black. I mean, what more can I say? This is what democracy looks like.
Well,
get real with it.
I appreciate you participating in democracy and coming to testify with articulating, taking your time and telling us your views. I appreciate it very much.
I would also appreciate if
Jane Manti
would stop micromanaging people when they talk too, please. Thank you.
Manti, then Trina Allen, and Kevin Carter.
Good evening, City Council. I'm Jane Manti here on behalf of the Sacramento Tenants Union to urge you to oppose this ordinance. As a collective fighting for renters across the city, picketing landlords and property managers who mistreat and extort their renters is sometimes the only recourse we have in a city that has not done enough to protect the constituents who rent. While we appreciate the efforts by the mayor to remove the provisions around picketing, this proposed ordinance, similar to the anti-camping ordinance, is still flawed as it further criminalizes and taxes Sacramentans who are housing insecure and chronically homeless, many of whom are or have been renters, many of whom are poor. We strongly urge you to vote down this piece of legislation and move progressive policies to help and bring resources to our fellow Sacramentans experiencing homelessness. Thanks.
Thank you for testifying.
Trina Allen, is Miss Allen still here? Kevin Carter or Mark Murrin?
Ms. Allen is here.
I wrote my name, but I meant Aaron. I just accidentally.
That's okay. You're welcome to come up. And Mr. Carter is next. But you have 2 minutes.
$225,000 for aggressive panhandling. Because it makes y'all feel guilty for making their existence illegal? Aggressive panhandling. So where's an ordinance to prevent aggressive police harassment of poor folks that have to be in public space? It's public space. If you pass the remaining articles of the ordinance on solicitation, I don't think anyone on this council actually believes that it will reduce the behavior that it proposes to reduce. If you do, it's truly naive, and I don't think that's the case. What it will do is continue to put us on the trajectory of the city of Sacramento, the capital of California, as being a traitor of the people. We will know where your true loyalties lie, where those who go hard for the marginalized people of this community already know your loyalties. To the racist and gentrifying developers, to the expanding racist and murderous law enforcement who will never see true justice for terrorizing the communities they're empowered to patrol with deadly weapons and continuing to have a money-making, nonprofit industrial complex for services for unhoused folks. This is including Goodwill. This is including, from what I hear, Sacramento Steps Forward. As Robert said, this money goes to staff, exorbitant executive director salaries, while the folks that the nonprofit is supposed to serve get nothing. This ordinance will only continue to justify the worsening law enforcement crackdown on unhoused folks in physical and increase the bureaucratic violence on poor folks.
Thank you for testifying.
My next speaker is Kevin Carter. Following Mr. Carter is Mark Murrin, and then Mark Rosso.
Those are the last items of public testimony for items 1 through 19.
That picture that you're looking at appeared on my wall. It's Dr. King in 1963. It's a march on Washington, but the rainbow that you see, that appeared out of nowhere. I can never explain that. I can't explain it today. But I know one thing, it's a sign. It's a sign to where we're at today. And where we're at today is the fierce urgencies of now, where we have love on the front line. And love on the front line is a dangerous way to live. As we can see today all over our nation, and even outside, the voices that you hear today, they're calling out for justice. They're calling out for righteousness and indignation. They're calling out for their city council members and their mayor to hear their voices. Not only them, but even me, who run the Poor People's Campaign. I've been running the Poor People's Campaign since 2009, since the Occupy movement, because everything that came out of that movement was about economics. Economics about between the haves and the have-nots. And today, the have-nots are like Rosa Parks. They're still being asked to go to the back of the bus. The have-nots are the same people that continue to turn in the check, but it keeps coming back, insufficient funds. There's something that we have to do here today. And that's to start is to hear the voices of the people that are out here. These are nonviolent protesters. Why I know that they're nonviolent protesters? Because I am. Because we all go by the First Amendment of the Constitution for a peaceful assembly. And all I'm asking for each and every one of you as council members, even from my own community where I grew up in Oak Park, where I've not got the respect
Mr.
for
Carter,
the work that I've done.
Your 2 minutes are up, okay?
I know my 2 minutes is up, but my final word that I have to say today is like flinging a coin to a beggar. Its essence only creates a beggar. And that's what we have today. Us coming in here every day and begging you to do the right thing for the people. And that's not just.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. There have been a lot of reasons why you should not adopt this aggressive solicitation ordinance, but just practically, I'm just going to address the practicalities of it. If you look at the definition of aggressive, there are words like intent, what the person who was panhandling intended. So that means you have to have some kind of determination of what the intent was. That involves a process. Then it says that it's likely to cause a person to fear bodily harm or otherwise to be intimidated into giving money or things of value. So this means that this person who's objecting to, if there is an objection to the solicitation, has actually had to give the money because he or she was intimidated to give the money. Then you have to, if you're actually going to attempt to sustain a violation, you actually have to have the police officer present at a time when there's a hearing. You probably have to have the alleged victim, the person who was intimidated into giving the money, present to interpret or to state that he or she felt somehow intimidated. What you're doing is just creating a headache for yourselves and defenses for anybody who wants to object to the violation. And it's just impractical. It's not that someone is going to move to strike it down, and that could very likely happen, but it's that you're going to tie up so much in resources that we could use elsewhere, trying to enforce something that has very little utility.
Thanks so much, Mr. Mayor. Good work.
Here is Mark Rosso.
Hi, everybody. There's been a lot said tonight, so I'm just going to try to keep it to the comments that haven't really been addressed. To be honest, thank you for getting rid of the restrictions on the freedom of speech aspect, but to be honest, it even goes further than that when it comes to the panhandling. At the end of the day, I'm not sure where people are left to panhandle. I think in most cases that are determined by a court, there needs to be a viable opportunity to go elsewhere to be able to do whatever action it is that you're restricting. In this case, between all the different definitions and areas and locations that you included, there's no location for a person to panhandle. And at the end of the day, that is a right by people. You can only imagine if you were in that situation. I'm lucky to have never been, but people outside and elsewhere have been, and I can't imagine a situation where we're going to further make it difficult for them to have funds and an ability to move out of their situation by further giving them a criminal record and the ability to fund them. I'm a legislative director. I've been working in policy for 4 years. This is not a policy that is able to move forward. I work in the state legislature. This is frustrating to see at the end of the day. I used to live in Mill Valley, and there it was a penalty to actually give money to the homeless. They didn't put it on the homeless. They put it on the person at the end of the day that was giving them. Is that where we're end up going to be? Where we're not even allowed to give from our own intention, our own ability to get to. I'm sorry, I'm emotional, I'm frustrated, because at the end of the day, this is surprising. I remember when you were supposed to be getting rid of the bus station on L Street, and that was supposed to be the elimination of homelessness in downtown Sacramento. Not elimination, it's an exaggeration, but at the end of the day, it was supposed to have a big, deep impact on the community, and yet nothing has changed. I've seen the arena go up. I've lived here since 1990, and it is frustrating to see that homelessness has skyrocketed the way it has.
Please,
Thank you.
Thank you. Please call my office, and we'd love to give you a briefing on whole person care and what we're doing to actually help people off the streets.
Graduate of City Management Academy just this last year, got a full briefing on the situation. It's still a little bit subpar, I hate to say. I'm sorry.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Okay. So that is the testimony on the 19 items on the consent calendar. I'd like to take a motion on the consent calendar with the suggested amendment that I have asked for to item 19. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me just finish. Again, Councilmember Hensel will make the motion to remove the residential picketing and the noise portions of item 19. To withdraw those items. So with that amendment, Councilmember Hanson moves. Is there a second? Second, and now Councilmember Ashby has a comment or question.
Just a point of clarification, want to make sure that I have this right. So the motion on the table is to move the consent calendar forward, and as to item 19, which is passed for publication.
Only.
Which means that we're not actually voting on those items.
Correct.
So instead what we're doing is voting not to move forward the two items, one about picketing and one about noise in residential communities. Those
Correct.
we are not going to move forward, so we won't discuss them.
Correct.
But the remainder of the items in 19, so parks and
Yes.
panhandling and what else, we're not voting yes that we're approving them, or voting yes to have a conversation to discuss them further. And do we have the date for that council meeting?
Well, it's currently planned for next week. It's currently planned for next week, and that's right. It'd be before the council for discussion, deliberation, and consideration.
Okay.
Okay? So,
I have a question on.
yes, Councilman Carr.
I want to make sure I understand the process that
Okay.
occurred here. I understand this item went through Law and Ledge. Was public testimony a part of that?
I'm sorry.
Was public testimony a part of this item going through Law and Ledge?
I'll turn it over to Councilmember Chenier to explain the lawn ledge.
So, we had about 3 members of the public who came to Law and Ledge, understanding that this would be a more in-depth conversation. The decision at Law and Ledge was to move it forward for council consideration. So we voted to move it forward for consideration, and again, there were, I think, 3 people who came to testify.
Well, obviously, there are more than 3 people interested in this issue.
I can see that.
And it might do us well to go back to Law and Ledge, publicize that this is going to be an issue to be discussed, and fully vet this so we can make it. I understand the intent of most of the provisions, but obviously there are some things that could be changed, and Law and Ledge might be able to benefit from receiving more extensive input.
Council decision.
It's a council decision. I mean, I'm torn on this, but I tend to think that, especially given the fact that people came out in force tonight, and that's a good thing, that they'll have an opportunity next week as well, that the issues are now known and well known to the city council and to the public, that we ought to take this up next week. Now, if we're not ready to vote, and certainly I'm going to be working with the author or the sponsor over the next week on some of the questions that have been raised. I know he's going to look at them as well. There are potential amendments that I would like to have brought forward publicly even before next Tuesday per our council rules, so that when we're debating next week, we can debate the package with appropriate amendments as discussions take place over the next couple of days.
And that's the situation I'd like to avoid. I'd
Okay.
like to present to this council a fully vetted proposal. And I don't think this has been fully vetted. I think we could take advantage of some of the input that we received here tonight to make this better. And I don't think the right place to do that is up here at the council. We have a committee. They can hold hearings. They can listen to people. They can get the suggestions. And they can make something that we could vote on. What I don't want to do is have a whole bunch of amendments presented to me next Tuesday to have to vote on from the dais.
Okay, I'm going to clarify that. Number one, okay, here's the way we're going to do this. I'm going to say something, and it's not going to be popular with a lot of the folks who testified today. And I don't know where the downtown partnership is tonight. I don't know where any of those people are. But there is no body beyond this body that has more compassion or more focus on trying to solve this homeless problem. And I'm going to tell you something. We're going to join this discussion with an update on whole person care and what we are doing to... You've had a chance to speak. You need to leave. You need to leave. Because I'm going to speak without being interrupted. You need to leave. You need to leave. You need to leave. Need to leave. Okay, it's all part of the job, but I'm going to finish what I have to say. There are two sides to this issue. And this council is the only city in the state that has applied for and received a $64 million grant to try to get 3,250 people off the streets. And you better believe we are serious about helping people actually end homelessness, not continue to facilitate. But there's another side to this debate, and those of you who are of the left but are thoughtful should understand that the homeless population is not monolithic. And we are getting increasing reports of people who are acting aggressively. There's a lot of drug use out there. The number of needles we find in various sites of the city, this is not consistent with the quality of life for either the homeless or the residents and the businesses in our city. So there's another side to this issue. And you know what? We can thread the needle by being aggressive about getting people off the streets, by working with the county, which we're making some progress here to merge our two systems so that we have access to their mental health system, the housing resources, the outreach and case management that are going to come with whole person care. I personally have held myself accountable as the mayor of this city to getting 2,000 people off the streets over the next 3 years. But there's another side to this, because being compassionate about the homeless doesn't mean that we should tolerate illegal behavior or behavior that is threatening to businesses and residents. And so the staff, not Councilmember Hanson, because I need to be clear on that, brings forward a set of policy proposals. And they may not be perfect, but you're darn right. It's important that we at least look at the issue of aggressive panhandling and figure out how we can address the plight of businesses and residents and people who do feel scared. And that's not inconsistent with being compassionate and being purposeful as we are to try and help as many people as possible. And we intend to help thousands. So, okay, the chambers are free for anybody to come forward and take your 2 minutes and take us on, and people are free to protest out there. I love it. It's the American way. But there are two sides to this story, and the public needs to hear that. All right, so, Councilman Carr?
And that's my point exactly, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I have a suggestion, I'm sorry. What I'm going to suggest after that statement is that I'm going to ask Councilmember Chenier, to agendize this for the Lawn Ledge Committee on August the 22nd. I then am going to agendize the full set of ordinance, or as amended at Lawn Ledge, for the full City Council on the 29th of August, with no continuance. Okay, so that's a week. But I think it threads the middle, I think, in a fair and appropriate way. Let's give Lawn Ledge the chance to deal with a lot of these concerns and do the detail work around potential amendments, and then we'll come here on the 29th, and as it stands, coming out of Lawn Ledge, assuming it does, we'll take it up on the 29th of August. Is that okay?
That is fine with me as long as Lawn Ledge can work through it in that time. When we had another thorny issue like this, it was the minimum wage. And I saw Law and Ledge get labor, business, community members, everyone together, and they did thread the needle and come back with a proposal that we could all vote for. And I'm hoping that Mr. Chenier can work his magic again and get all of the parties together, the people, the businesses, the advocates, everyone together in an organized way to come back with a nice proposal.
So there is a motion, and the motion is going to, friendly amendment, to include, I don't know that it needs to, but I'm going to ask that the calendar be as I described it, the 22nd and the 29th. So the motion's on the table, it's been seconded. We do have other council members who want to speak. Councilmember Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was prepared to vote no on passing this to actual council action next week. I like the idea that Councilman Carr brought up in terms of taking this back for consideration and figuring out if there is an ordinance that can be put forward that really does not stifle the voice of the people of Sacramento. You know, I am very concerned with some of the actions and things that I've heard relative to this particular ordinance, and I think it really cuts to the core of our democracy. And I mean, there are other parts of this ordinance that I have concerns with, sections 1272.20 and 1272.210 are other ordinances where I could see there could be some unintended consequences, abuses, and things that could negatively impact our community. So if it is the will of this council to go forward with a vote tonight, my vote would be no. If we're going to take this back for consideration and potentially some modifications that might change some of that, that would be the direction that
I'm sorry, I cut you off accidentally. I didn't mean to. That was an accident.
I mean, I think what's really important, I mean, hopefully people in the audience heard it, but what's really important is that you guys understand my position as it relates to this particular issue, and I'm hopeful that we will not take an action tonight on this item, and we will do as Councilman Carr recommended.
It's to refer it to Lawn Ledge for the 1 week, and then have it the 29th, but removing tonight, withdrawing tonight, the picketing and noise pieces of it, okay? That's the motion. I hope you can support it.
Well, also, there are other elements of this motion that I have concerns with, particularly the parks and recreational
Not voting
facilities.
on that tonight.
I understand that, but I'm saying that it's nice that we've taken out the items that you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, but there are also other concerns that I have relative to this this ordinance, so thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Okay, I messed up the queue here. Is it okay? Councilmember Harris,
Just a brief comment. I think we learned a little something from this exercise, that when we have an ordinance of substance like this, that it not go through on consent at Law and Ledge, but that we have a full open discussion and use the committee for its intended purpose. I'm actually quite pleased it'll go back to Law and Ledge and adjust it as appropriate in committee before it comes to the council. I think that Mr. Carr is absolutely right.
Yeah, and that's why tried to find the tweener here. I think we're heading in the right direction. Councilmember Ashby.
Yeah, Mayor, part of the problem here for me is that we have too many topics in one issue. I really think perhaps we should break it apart and take each separately, because it's very cumbersome to look at so many important things all at once, and I don't think we're threading that needle as finely as we'd like to. I also do not want to be critical of Law and Ledge, but I am somewhat disappointed that it came to us in the fashion that it's in. I hope sending it back would work, but I feel like that's a tall order for Councilmember Schenier or anyone else. That's only 1 week, and then it has to turn around 1 week later to come back to council. So I just would taper expectations that within 7 days, this is going to look a whole heck of a lot different than it does right now, and then 14 days later look different from that. So I'm tempted to vote no on the proposal at all today, because I don't think that bouncing it back to Law and Ledge for 1 week and then 1 week later expecting it to come to City Council looking different is a reasonable expectation of staff or of Law and Ledge team. I have no idea what's on their agenda. I have no idea what's on our 29th agenda. I don't know what all we're pushing together or ramming back. That feels rushed. Maybe if we said we were willing to take out the picketing piece and the residential noise complaints today and send the remaining 3 pieces, parks, panhandling, and the downtown business upkeep components, to Law and Ledge next month, that they would have a chance to look at it. The council. And the reason I say that is because I think, the panhandling piece is going to be controversial no matter how we handle it. I think the parks piece, which Betty Williams brought up, it can be solvable. We just need to work together on it and make sure that it's addressed prior to taking it. And there was no negative discussion around the business upkeep component for downtown. So that part seems easy. We probably could have passed that next week on the council, but since we grouped 5 things together, now one is going to have to wait for the other and the other and the other, and that was the mistake I believe was made here in the form and function of this policy. So on the notion of sending it back to Law and Ledge, the current motion on the table, I think I'm a no, even though I think there are valuable pieces of this that should move forward. As long as they're linked together, I think it's going to be not in the best interest of the city of Sacramento.
No, I appreciate all your comments, but let us be clear. If it's referred to Law and Ledge next week, Councilmember Schenier and the committee does the best that it can to try to address the issues. It's not like they're new. They've been well vetted in a way tonight. If in Councilmember Schenier's judgment and the committee's judgment, they're not ready to pass it to the council, that'll be the function of the committee. But in my view, that's not a reason to vote no on sending it to Law and Ledge. It's just I stated my own desire that it get back to the council by the 29th of August, because I think, there's a lot of anxiety about these sets of issues, both on the council and in the community. I'd like to wrap it up as quick as possible and not have it linger. But if that can't be because of, the work that they have to do in the public testimony, then so be that, right? So it's not a controversial motion that I'm suggesting here, and it doesn't bind them to finish it in the time. It's just a hope.
Yeah, I just think we would be better off to give it the due study that it deserves and break it apart. I don't think 2 weeks does it. So for me, I think it'll pass fine with you, but everyone's going to need to vote their conscience on this one. I think it's important enough to give it a month of input and effort and
Fair enough. Councilman Schenier.
Yeah, so thanks, Mayor. I mean, we'll obviously do our best. I would remind Mr. Carr that we spent months on minimum wage, and not everyone was happy at the end of the day. Right, Mr. Sasso?
You're right.
But we will do our best. What I would request, both from this council and members of the public, is that if you have comments on this, you direct them towards the city manager. I can do that under the Brown Act, correct, with members of the council as well. And I would request that you do that by close of business Thursday, so that we can take all of that information into account and do the very best we can. So let me repeat that. For members of the council, if you have comments or suggestions by close of business Thursday would be helpful. And members of the public to do the same, and we'll do some outreach. We've met with some members of the public on this, and we'll try to continue to do that before next Tuesday.
Okay, Vice Mayor Jennings.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we're clear as far as the two items that are coming off and will not be forwarded to Law and Ledge. So I think
the two items, the picketing and the noise, are not being referred to Law and Ledge per the motion. They're being withdrawn, period.
So I do want to make it clear also that there are 4 items that would be moving forward to Law and Ledge, if I understand my notes correctly.
Referred to Law and Ledge.
Referred to Law and Ledge for them to review. And I think this gives the people an opportunity for their voice to be heard at 2 different bites of the apple. And I'm really happy about that, because I think there's a lot of confusion right now, and I think there's a lot of fear and anxiety as far as what people are reading, because it is too tangled up together, and I think it needs to be separated so that people can look at each ordinance in its entirety by itself, so it doesn't bleed over into it. And so I think the proposal in front of us to take it to Law and Ledge and let it come back to the council is the right thing to do. And if it doesn't, as you said earlier, if it doesn't allow us to do it on the 22nd and the 29th, that's not an issue as far as it being so that we take it to a later date in order to give us more time to get it right and to make sure that we hear from the people on this very sensitive issue. So I'm in support of the motion that's on the table right now.
Okay, thank you so much. Councilmember Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciated you clarifying. There's misinformation. This is not my set of ordinances. This is a set of ordinances that was brought forward by our police department and our city manager's staff in consultation with the city attorney's office, because on a daily basis, we get complaints from employees, visitors, residents about some of the things that are covered here, the conduct in our parks, the conduct on our streets. And this is not an issue of homelessness. This is about behavior and aggressive behavior. Our job is to protect the safety of our citizens, the economic well-being of our employees, and in the end, we may not do anything on these, but it's fair to have this debate, and people are entitled to state their opinion, and they should. And I think that's a sign that Sacramento is a healthy place. In the end, though, I think that this council will have to try to figure out how to help our residents. Employees, for instance, park employees, we've had reports that they go to try to mow the lawn and people run them out of the parks. Those are behaviors that aren't about being homeless. Those are just not okay. We as a city have an obligation to everyone here that they can use the public space and use it without regard for fear or intimidation or harassment. And that's not a freedom of speech issue. I believe we strongly will strive to protect the freedom of speech of our public, as the mayor said. It has nothing to do with the content. We desperately, though, want to move forward in having a successful city. And we look to you as partners in doing it. Whatever the council does, ultimately, may not change what happens on the streets, or it may. It depends on you as a public being present and engaged and part of solutions. And so whether we send it to Law and Ledge and it comes back right away or later, I think we have to figure out how to address the concerns of our employees, our residents, and the other people trying to lead their lives in Sacramento and do it without being intimidated or threatened. And that's the bottom line. And if we do nothing, okay. That's a fair outcome. That's the democratic process. If we do something, hopefully people will understand that we're trying to serve the residents that we represent, the employees of the city, and the people who look to us to make sure that we've created a safe city. So with that, I'll ask if we're ready to call the question.
Okay, Councilmember Carr has one last comment.
You can go ahead and make the clarification
clarity.
if you
Go
want.
ahead.
The clarification was for Law and Ledge. This is being referred to Law and Ledge. Do you view this as having to come back all in one piece, or can you bring them back separately?
Yeah, I think that we can make a decision and we'll make a recommendation back to the council. And my guess is we'll look at them individually. These are three separate things. I think that would be an easier discussion for the council to have.
I think
So
that
we'll have that discussion.
And that may or may not answer Councilmember Ashby's concern. I do think, in fact, let's make it clear that these provisions and these ideas ought to come back separately. No one's asking people to take a package vote here. You vote on the panhandling piece, the parks piece, and the other piece separately. That's the intent. And that's should be the normal course of business. This isn't the legislature where you got to package it all together. You take these pieces separately. I hope that maybe provides a little bit of comfort. Councilmember Ashby.
Yeah, if we can separate them, which I think we were, at least tonight, being asked to vote on them in a group, which is what made me uncomfortable.
Okay.
If we can
No, I get
separate
it.
them.
I get it.
And so they come back as three separate items, I think that's very, is it four in total? That's very helpful. And then, what's the fourth? There's the parks, the panhandling, the downtown business upkeep. I thought we killed the other two.
And the 3 feet alcove.
That's the business cleanup part.
Oh.
So I don't know what the fourth is. Those are the three.
The City
Oh,
Hall,
the City
the
Hall.
City Hall issue. Thank you. There's 4. Okay? They'll come back separate.
Okay, if those can come back separate, and I think I heard one other change in the discussion there was that, Mayor, at first you said 29th with no, I wrote it down, with
What did I
that.
say?
At first you said to come back on the 29th without the ability to move it again. And so I think what I'm hearing.
I got to change that. I got to clarify that after
So if you're
hearing
going to
the
take that out, and instead
I'd
it's
take
going
that
back to
out.
Law and Ledge, it may take a couple of months for some of them, it may take a week for one, I don't know, and then we break them apart, then I can support that.
My hope is that with as much public input, but as expeditiously as possible.
But there's no arbitrary deadline for any one of them to come back, and they will be separated out.
Yes.
Then I can support that.
Yes, okay.
Let me, one more thing really quickly is, we're currently scheduled from 3 to 4. Since we have closed session at 4, I'd like to move the meeting up. So Fran, where are you? Yeah, let's move the meeting up to 2 o'clock as a starting point. So for those of you who want to come to it.
Okay.
Next Tuesday, 2 o'clock, because I know we have some cannabis issues on the agenda as well.
Mr. Mayor and Council, just for process, you've got a motion that was subject to a friendly amendment, but there wasn't a second on that. So if the record is to reflect the latest action, it's to send it back to the Law and Ledge with the 2 items taken out, the targeted
Yes.
residential and the noise
Correct.
amplification. And then at the Law and Ledge, it'll be considered, and it can come back in portions if that's
You can
what-
come back in whatever form the Law and Ledge Committee deems, but the intent is to bring back each of the items separately so that the full council can vote. If they do all come back or pass out a Law and Ledge, they can be considered separately.
And that was the friendly amendment, and then the second concurred with that.
That's correct.
Okay,
More of a
it's
substitute,
been
but
moved and concurred. Okay, all clear. So now we have the entire consent calendar as amended. With that item, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained. That passes 9-0. Thank you. That's democracy. Excellent. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. We'll take just a sec while people filter out. What's that? No. You're not allowed to come up here now. That's okay. 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 Good.
I think I just tripped the trigger like 3 times. You got some blurry mess. You're not gonna know what I didn't
I got it. It makes sense. That's what clarification that we brought back separately. I get it. No, we can't now, Frank. I gotta conduct a meeting here. I'm sorry. Okay. We do have one more item tonight, and it is file item 20. Who is presenting on file item 20? Mr. Director.
Good evening, Mayor Steinberg and members of the council. My name is Bill Busaith. I'm the Director of the Department of Utilities. I'm pleased to be here tonight to recommend and request that council rescind the Stage 2 water shortage emergency and approve proposed changes to our outdoor water conservation ordinance. In April, Governor Brown rescinded his drought emergency executive order. Hence, it is appropriate that we here in the city of Sacramento also rescind our Stage 2 water shortage emergency. Modifications to the outdoor water conservation ordinance focus primarily on changing the standard warm weather 3-day per week watering schedule to 2 days per week and other allowances that will be outlined. If the ordinance's changes are approved, they will take effect on November 1st. Oh, okay, good. We're good. Why 2-day-a-week watering? The governor has developed the California Water Action Plan, an element of which includes making conservation a California way of life. The plan includes legislation that will define permanent water use efficiency regulations. These ordinance changes that we're proposing will position us to be in compliance with those regulations without further major changes to our conservation ordinance. The city is also in the process of transitioning from drought emergency response to a culture of long-term, sustainable water use efficiency. The citizens of Sacramento did a great job conserving water during the drought. These ordinance changes will be the foundation of the city's continued effective stewardship of our priceless water resources and continued regional leadership in this area. We are also confident that 2-day per week watering, along with other irrigation allowances in these ordinance changes, and continued education, assistance, rebates, and incentives will foster healthier, more drought-resilient landscaping, and this includes healthier and more drought-resilient trees. As you can, this is a chart of our gallons, our GPCD, which is gallons per person per day usage. And you can see the trend peaked in about 1980 at about 310 gallons per person per day. You can see that now we are at about 160 gallons per person per day. While we don't anticipate staying this low in our water usage, we want to set a goal and a standard probably at about 190 gallons per person per day that we believe is sustainable and still a healthy conservation target. In preparation for these ordinance changes, we presented our proposals to the advisory group, our conservation advisory group. This is a group that includes participation from citizens, regular citizens of the city of Sacramento, the Sacramento Association of Realtors, Rental Housing Association, school districts, the California Water Efficiency Partnership. This group was very supportive of the proposed ordinance changes. What we are wanting to do is get away from our current watering patterns, which too often waters too much at a time. Water runs off the turf and does not get a chance to soak in, resulting in shallow root growth. If we can encourage, we want to encourage residents to water deeper with shorter watering, more frequent waterings for shorter durations, which will allow water to sink deep into the soil and also foster deep root growth. We have included in these ordinance changes some irrigation and other allowances that were not available to the residents prior, including if there is a heat wave of 2 days or more, starting on the third day, we would allow residents to water their lawns any time and any day until the temperature goes back below 100 degrees. We also will, residents will be enabled to wash their cars any day and to hand water any day and any time. Hand watering includes watering with sprinklers that are moved by hand throughout the lawn, or any other watering that involves a shut-off valve on the hose. It also allows residents with smart controllers to water anytime. Drip irrigation can take place anytime or any day. That includes soaker hoses. We want to encourage our residents to separate their tree watering from their turf watering. You see here a great picture of a tree with a soaker hose around it. When trees are watered that way, the water can get deep, the roots will go deep, and they'll be more drought resistant. It also includes new landscapes and edible gardens and potted plants. These we allow for new landscapes to be watered for 21 days so that they can be established before these time and day restrictions apply. Also, any landscape area that is irrigated with recycled water or with non-potable water, that includes many of our park areas and many of our golf courses, which are irrigated with non-potable well water. During the drought, our parks conserved more than almost anybody. They were the rock stars of conservation in the city of Sacramento. We anticipate that now they will continue to be responsible in their conservation and water use, but there will be times when they will be allowed to water outside of the regular 2-day watering schedule. If residents or groups need or want to request variances to these day and time restrictions, they are able to do that. Those variances will be considered on a case-by-case basis by department staff. With regard to the NOVs and fines, previously a first infraction would be a first notice of violation. We are going to transition that to be the first infraction will be a warning. There will not be an NOV issued for the first infraction. What used to be the second violation will now be a first violation, and we're proposing a $50 penalty or fine for that. These penalties and fines can be waived if residents request a WaterWise house call, or participate in some of our rebate programs or other incentive programs or some of our education programs. We're transitioning from a very strong focus we did a lot of education and outreach during the drought, but we also did some very significant enforcement. At one time, we had almost 40 part and full-time employees engaged in enforcement activities. The focus moving forward is education and assistance, and moving away from enforcement. That doesn't mean that we won't still enforce, but we'll be cutting back the enforcement significantly, the enforcement effort. In our education and assistance, we have a very robust program that we're already doing and that we will be enhancing and continuing, including many monthly and local events, farmers markets, information at Earth Day and Sac Zoo and school events, events like Mulch Mayhem, where we give away free mulch, workshops held by staff on water conservation on a regular basis, partnerships with local entities like Eco Landscape, UC Davis, and others, river-friendly landscape, turf replacement programs, also assistance with leak detection, water-wise house calls, sprinkler tune-ups, smart controller rebates, river-friendly landscape, as I mentioned before, high-efficiency toilet washer and washers, and giveaways of soaker hoses, efficient shower heads, and shower timers. Again, our efforts in this have been significant and robust. We will continue those and enhance them. Staff met recently with representatives from the Tree Foundation and from the Nursery Association. And these groups requested some minor enhancements to the proposed ordinance. If directed by council, DOU would be pleased to consider changes, minor changes, that we would come back through a law and ledge and council process with some cleanup language to this ordinance that would address some of their requests.
I'm sorry, but Law and Ledge already has a full agenda.
We don't have to do that for a while. So thank you for your attention, and of course we're open for questions.
Thank you. So we have a number of council members up, but let's hear from the members of the public. First priority.
Thank you. I have 20 speaker slips. The first one from David Brady, David Andre, and then Torin Dunvant.
If you could speak, by the way, if you're objecting any particular part of the ordinance, appreciate if you'd focus your testimony there, because there are a lot of pieces of this.
Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Honorable Mayor Steinberg and council members, my name is David Brady, and I oppose the reduction of watering days and the 100% increase of the first penalty for violations. Sacramento would be the only major city in California with anything less than a 3-day per week watering schedule. This places an undue burden on Sacramento residents in light of the fact that more than 10 million residents of other cities are not subject to such punitive restrictions. All other water providers in Sacramento and Yolo counties also allow at least a 3-day watering schedule, including the city of Davis. City staff say that watering 2 days per week is healthier for lawns. However, the University of California and the city's own smart irrigation scheduler say that the optimal watering schedule in Sacramento is 3 times per week. The fact parks and golf courses would be exempt indicates the city doesn't even believe its own justification for twice-a-week watering. There are also no restrictions on new development, and staff has not explained whether the revenue shortfall from decreased water sales will be made up by increased rates or outside water sales. Staff says the state will pass legislation limiting future water use. However, this legislation was put on suspense when the governor declared the end of the drought. I think we can all agree that there will be another drought. But I don't think the state will give Sacramento special treatment because we stuck it to our residents when we didn't have to. If they did, they would have a mutiny on their hands from other major water users. The stated purpose of this ordinance is reasonable use of water. 3 days is reasonable, 2 days is not.
Thank you, sir, for testifying.
David Andre. Following Mr. Andre is Torrin Donovan.
Mr. Andre's not here, I don't think. Okay.
And then Tom Goring.
Goring?
How are you doing? My name is Torrin Donovan. I work for the Sacramento Tree Foundation. It's great to be here. As a representative for the foundation, I'd like to comment about the ordinance. Our members have reached out to us to express their concerns about this ordinance. They were concerned about the potential impacts to our trees, specifically the way that the ordinance would affect how Sacramentans are able to water their trees that are impacted by drought conditions. As you know, our trees are essential to our city's identity. In addition to the aesthetic value of our trees, they are our frontline defense against the impact of climate change, thanks to their ability to cool our hot city, reduce energy use, reduce stormwater, and clean urban runoff. We recognize the need for ensuring water security for the region and that the outdoor water use is a large contributor to urban wastewater. We almost wholly support the ordinance that's being discussed this evening, though we do want to make sure that a few elements are taken into consideration, as the Director of the Department of Utilities has mentioned. The success of this ordinance is heavily reliant upon how well it is conveyed to the people of Sacramento. If it lacks proper messaging or outreach, we will see similar outcomes that occurred when we were mired in our 5-year drought, where people stopped their outdoor watering completely, which severely impacted our trees, native plants, and water-wise landscapes. While this ordinance smartly allows for watering our trees and other vegetation, it's easy to see how people could overlook those provisions if the ordinance is delivered by normal means. The amended ordinance that was submitted to you this afternoon seeks to ensure the success of the water conservation ordinance. It does that by specifically calling for a monitoring element, by allowing for more time to implement the ordinance, a refinement of definitions, and clarifying how residents can continue to care for our urban forest. City Council and the Department of Utilities should be commended for their forward thinking on this issue. Please ensure its success by supporting a smart, thoughtful implementation.
Thank you very much for testifying.
Our next speaker is Tom Goring. Following Tom is Tammy Kint, and then Ashley Rossi.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Tom Goring. I'm Executive Director of the Sacramento Water Forum. I'm also a proud citizen of the city of Sacramento.
Welcome.
The city is one of about 20 different water providers in the Sacramento region who signed the Water Forum Agreement back in 2000. The Water Forum Agreement is basically a truce between local environmental groups and local water providers, and an agreement to simultaneously try to assure reliable water supplies for our communities and to protect the Lower American River. As a representative of this region and among our water community, I have had an opportunity to sort of experience two different Sacramentos. About 10 years ago, I experienced a city of Sacramento who was not always held in high regard by our siblings in the water community. I often heard people say, Sacramento, those are the guys that don't have any meters. I experience a different Sacramento today. For the last 5 years or so, our reputation among the water community, among water regulators in the state has changed. We're seen as being more progressive. We're seen as people who are true stewards of our water supply and our aquatic habitat. I think that the ordinance you see in front of you continues to demonstrate that the city is a good steward of its water, that you're continuing to make an investment in water conservation, and I think it improves drought resiliency. It protects the city's water rights by showing that we're using water wisely, and it reduces the long-term cost of water supply, which helps keep rates low for our citizens. I urge you to support the ordinance so that you can hold your heads high among the court of public opinion and continue to be good stewards, and so I can join you in doing that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next speaker is Tammy Kint. Following Ms. Kent is Ashley Rossi and then Ellen Carlson.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm here on behalf of Green Acres Nursery and Supply. And while we believe that 3 days a week is a more reasonable expectation for residents, we do support the objectives of the revised ordinance that's been presented to you today. We also are in line with promoting landscape water efficiency practices for long-term sustainability through unpredictable low water years, as long as we don't sacrifice our urban landscapes and the health of our environment. For us, it's about a comprehensive education versus a 2-day-a-week headline that could potentially be disengaging residents from maintaining a healthy landscape. We've worked with the City of Sacramento Department of Utilities, the California Association of Nurseries and Garden Centers, the Sacramento Tree Foundation, and horticulture experts from UC Davis, which led us to our recommendations to include residential landscapes that provide ecological benefit in item D of the legislative intent. Also to include robust funding for the execution of a comprehensive public education and outreach program that emphasizes how to water trees and landscapes to meet our goals, and just as importantly, maintain a healthy ecosystem. The inclusion of a partnership with stakeholders to craft messages and leverage communication to residents and businesses that will inspire them to answer the call to action versus disincentivizing them, in turn keeping them from rehabilitating and caring for their landscapes. To create a comprehensive plan to assess the ordinance to determine if it's meeting the objective without the unintended impacts, recommending that the department reports to the City Council by March 30th, 2020, and propose any necessary code changes.
Thank you for your testimony. 2 minutes. We appreciate it.
Next speaker is Ashley Rossi, then Ellen Carlson, and then Mac Worthy.
Hello, I'm Ashley Rossi. I'm also with Green Acres Nursery and Supply, the current chair of the California Associations of Nurseries and Garden Centers, and a resident of the City of Sacramento. I support the version of the Outdoor Water Conservation Amendment that staff has presented tonight, although 3 days a week is more reasonable. I support the version with it being made that the exemptions being made clear. So I want to use this time to stress that. So the only way this ordinance works is with the exemptions, in our opinion. So after studying this amendment, I believe the intent is for residents to both conserve water and maintain a healthy landscape, and both of those are important for our city. However, when the ordinance is presented as a permanent, just a 2-day-a-week restriction, as the media has already presented it, the intent changes to conserve water at the cost of the landscape, which I think is detrimental to our city. It is true that the amendment includes lots of thoughtful and achievable exemptions that encourage the use of more efficient irrigation methods. However, in order for the ordinance to be effective, people need to clearly understand what the city is requiring of them and what their options are for implementation. So by providing additional context to the 2-day-a-week headline that is recommended to you in the handout that you were given in section 3C2, it shifts the focus to what people are allowed to do under the exemptions, which will ensure success for the ordinance. By including language that better describes what exactly falls under the 2-day-a-week restriction up front, the ordinance becomes much less confusing to the public, will be met with much less resistance, and a higher success rate for both vegetation and conservation. I thank you for your time and your consideration of our recommendations, especially the one with explaining what the 2-day-a-week is preempted by.
Okay, thank you very much. Try to do that.
Ellen Carlson, and then Mac Worthy.
Ellen Carlson, Mac Worthy.
Following Mr. Worthy is Dave Todd.
So the restriction is gone, and this man, I admire him and Pete, and those people person. People, what are you trying to do, and what was really to look at the water? Now, I'm going to bring some bills to the department once I find out the meter have kicked in. But some strange things that in his presentation, give you time to do this. How much do we pay per gallon for water? Do that, and I can break down and show you where somebody is doing something on Second Avenue, what they're doing. Now, if you're short of water, why did you use the water to dig the hole to transfer a meter? If you're short of water, how many gallons of water did you use per meter when you used that? When you could have hired some boys to dig it with a pick and put the meter in. I really don't know where you're going with it, but 3 days a week sounds reasonable. I just planted a lot of flowers out in the Carmichael area and in the El Dorado Hills. But when we sit down and look at the realtors, where some of the people sit to the table, we have a real problem with that. When you have poor folks' neighborhood, they cannot afford to fertilize their gardens or their lawns. So what will the value of that property be? You will see realtors coming in and use that dried up yard in sales and sell it for a little or nothing. And we look at some areas in East Sacramento and Land Park, somebody was doing something else with water to keep those lawns green. Now, when we look at our trees blew over, and nobody talking about the tree, how California trees, you do not have a taproot on California trees. You have a hot pan, and when the wind get high and the water and the earth is soft, the tree flip over because it depends on the roots right at the top of the ground. So if you kind of tell people that part of it, you may see a different thing in water use.
Okay.
And next speaker is Dave Todd. Following Mr. Todd is Virginia Smith.
Mayor Steinberg, members of the council, I'm a former water conservation supervisor for the city of Fresno, and I'm a current proud member of the Sacramento Water Conservation Advisory Group. In May of this year, I skied into Tuolumne Meadows in Yosemite National Park over an epic snowpack. But that is a rare occurrence. Over many more years, 25 years that I've been cross-country skiing across the Sierra, I've witnessed the glaciers recede. And the glaciers are part of the snowpack, and that's what our water supply ultimately depends on. And so what I would ask is that we all make the necessary changes to make the most sustainable use of our precious water resource. 3 days a week watering is not the key question here. It's how many hours per day can we water efficiently? If we do that, thousands of citizens around California have demonstrated that it's more than possible to keep our lawns and landscapes green and keep our cities attractive. But it requires us to change. And change, is not easy for anyone. But the ordinance before you will help make water conservation a Sacramento way of life. With the climate change coming, we have to do it. And so therefore, I urge you to approve this ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Next speaker is Virginia Smith. Following Ms. Smith is Chris Brown.
Hi, Virginia Smith, resident of District 3. I know you're surprised I'm not here talking about bicycling today, but I am here for something equally as important to me, and that is conservation of our water. So I just want to let you know that I do support this as it is. I think it covers a lot of the issues for keeping the trees alive, for allowing people to garden sustainably, and still maintain a decent-looking lawn. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much for coming.
Next speaker is Chris Brown. Following Mr. Brown is John Woodling.
Good evening. I'm struggling with a little allergy this summer.
Okay.
I'm a resident of District 5 and have worked in water conservation for 29 years. I support the ordinance as proposed, work with a local group of advocates called the Valley Water Conservation Advocates. We like this. It's elegant in its simplicity. It provides adequate water for healthy landscapes, as the presentation mentioned. I disagree with Mr. Buseth respectfully. I think we can keep below 160 GPCD in the future. We can set more aggressive goals with this approach, not drift back up to 190. The reason I'm going to address just quickly, because I have an MS in watching grass grow. There are dozens of papers and studies that show that 2 days a week is not only adequate, but it produces healthier plants when you're watering not only turf grass, but shrubs and trees as well. The less frequent, deeper watering is better for the plant. I read more than 100 of those papers getting that MS. But the chart you were shown didn't happen to mention that these cities that don't manage irrigation frequency have very aggressive tiered water rates. The people who use too much water pay much higher monthly bills than those that conserve water in those cities. This is an elegant approach because not everybody in Sacramento has a meter yet, and 2 days a week is adequate. It will help us save 20 to 25% of the water that if we allowed daily watering, and 3 days a week has been shown to save about 5 or 10%. So we want to stay with the proposal as written. I agree that the variance proposals are also very good. They allow people to deal with the challenges they may face, and I'm out of time, and I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you so much, sir.
John Woodling, and then Rich Covert.
Good evening, Mayor Steinberg, members of the council. I'm John Woodling. I'm a resident of District 4 in Land Park. I'm also executive director of the Regional Water Authority. So those 20 water suppliers that Mr. Goring talked about, I represent those and the 2 million customers they serve throughout the 5-county region. And I want to comment from two perspectives. From the Regional Water Authority perspective, I want to thank staff for being thoughtful and moving forward a proposal that is progressive in improving water efficiency in an attempt to meet the needs of the community. And that's important that every water supplier look at how they meet the unique needs of their community for water supply. And it's important, I think, to push back on what we've seen as a trend the last few years in ill-conceived state efforts to mandate local management of water. As a resident, in channeling my neighbors who don't do this every day for 30 years, worry about water issues, I'm conditionally supportive, and I'm heartened by some of the last-minute discussions with stakeholders, because I think in addition to the ordinance and the restrictions of 2 days a week, the council does need to commit to both the messaging and the support of utility staff to, one, education, education, education. Education favored over enforcement. Two, strong support for the protection of our trees. We made mistakes during the drought, and people thought the message was, don't water anything, and trees suffered for it. Third thing, continue to provide the incentives to the customers that want to voluntarily change their landscape or upgrade their irrigation systems. And then the legitimate opportunity that seems to be provided for a variance. Allow that to happen for the customers. So with that strong support of what needs to go along with the restrictions, I'm supportive of the proposal.
Thank you very much for your good testimony.
Next speaker is Rich Covert. Following Rich is Daniel Covert.
Rich and Daniel, are you here? If not, let's move on, please.
Francis Spivey Weller, and then Rick Bettis.
Francis. Ann, how you doing?
I am pleased to be a resident of Sacramento now. I was formerly on the State Water Resources Control Board. So I am quite familiar with a lot of the conservation measures that have been taken across the state and certainly across the country as well. I love being in Sacramento. I love being a resident of Sacramento, of downtown Sacramento. I believe Steve Hansen is my district representative. And I love the trees. And so I do think that the points that have been made to you, that the messaging about this regulation, which I strongly support, be made in a way that is quite simple, and that people are talked to about what they can do to water their trees, what they can do to keep their lawns up to their standards, and what they can do to take advantage of the many opportunities that are being offered by the city to change their lawns to be much more water efficient. I would encourage you to do this not just for today, but for the future. I think that the water that we are able to save now will be water that we will be able to use as we move forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your years of dedication to the difficult issue of water. I think I had the privilege of confirming you once or twice.
You did.
Too.
You did,
yes,
and thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I'm glad you're in Sacramento. Go ahead.
Rick Bettis and then Jonathan Nelson.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Rick Bettis. I'm speaking on behalf of the League of Women Voters tonight, and that's because I represent them on the Sacramento Water Forum as well as on stakeholder committees and advisory committees on other water-related organizations such as the Regional Water Authority and Regional Sanitation and all. And I'm here in support of this ordinance. I think it's reasonable. I think it's practical. They really considered a lot of practical things in when they wrote this, because they talk about the type of irrigation methods and equipment they use, as well as what you're irrigating, like no restriction on what irrigating vegetable gardens, which is great. And so it was really well thought through. I can see why they, and I was involved with the Water Forum in their, what they call a conservation team for several years, and it's a marked change is where you're headed now. So I really appreciate that, and it meets all the water conservation goals of the Water Forum, which is also gratifying. And I'm pleased that they mentioned climate change, which, water, the treatment and conveyance of water uses about 20% of our electrical energy, so that's an important thing, is to conserve water when you're trying to stave off climate change. And climate change would also make our water shortage potentially much greater because of the great fluctuation in droughts and in flood years. So again, I appreciate what they've done, and I would urge your support of this ordinance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jonathan Nelson and then Craig Segal.
I have a Lady Gaga concert to get to, so I will make this quick. My name is Jonathan Nelson. I'm a resident of District 4 and also the policy director of the Community Water Center. Our mission is to ensure all Californians have safe and affordable drinking water, but we also work on other issues that are important, like conservation. So I'm pleased to be here today in strong support of the proposed measure. I want to acknowledge the staff for putting forward a very thoughtful proposal that will hopefully continue this culture of making conservation a California way of life. And we encourage other cities to follow California, or Sacramento's lead rather. Hopefully we implement similar policies across the state. I'd be happy to discuss safe drinking water issues more with the council or the mayor if that's of interest. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Craig Segal and then Chris Zanaboni.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, to my chagrin, no one told me about Lady Gaga, so I'm here with you. I'm a resident of District 4, and my day job, I'm a climate and air lawyer, but I'm venturing into water tonight because I think this ordinance is a great idea, and I'm here to support it. I have 3 things to say quickly before the concert starts. The first thing to say is, as a climate lawyer, it's clear to me, as it's been clear to many of the speakers, that we're facing a future of increasing aridity and water scarcity, especially in the Central Valley. Any measures we can take, including measures as common sense as these, are wholly appropriate for the city's resilience. Some policy issues are complex, as tonight has demonstrated. Some less so. This is less so. It deserves a yes vote. The second thing I'll say is that part of climate resiliency and water policy is access to water and water justice. I'd encourage the council to think carefully about other measures it can take, especially as we confront anomalously, but increasingly not so anomalously hot summers, to provide water access, including drinking water, drinking fountains, and public bathrooms throughout the city core and throughout the city. I think there'd be a critical follow-on measure, recognizing we aren't just talking about lawns, we're talking about people. And the third thing I'll say is, having had a late night, I know there are folks here tonight who probably won't speak, given the length of the consent calendar. I hope they'll stand or otherwise indicate their support for the ordinance if they're here. Thanks.
Good, thank you. Would those in favor of the ordinance please stand? I think that would be helpful. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Director stands as well. Love it. Okay.
Our next speaker is Chris Zanobini, and then Steve Archibald.
Okay, I'll be brief, I promise. Chris Zanobini, President of the California Association of Nurseries and Garden Centers. And just like Green Acres and the Sacramento Tree Foundation, we hope you consider our recommended amendments that we worked out with the staff. For over 100 years, our organization has been promoting and protecting the interests of the nursery industry in California. We strongly support water conservation and vibrant, healthy landscapes, and we support the vision of City of Sacramento to establish water use practices that have long-term positive impacts to the city and the state of California. We have a keen interest in communicating the right message and educating the public how to successfully maintain their landscapes under the new ordinance. I think a common tenet into a lot of the communication this evening. The last thing any of us want is that the ordinance has a detrimental effect on the landscape of Sacramento. Our industry continues to support innovation in turf, plant varieties, and research in water use and water use efficiencies, and encourage you to make a thoughtful, data-driven decision on this ordinance. We know from experience that what is decided here today could become a model for neighboring communities across the state. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Steve Archibald, and then Ray Vanderwolf.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I am Steve Archibald. I come here in my role as a resident of Sacramento and a water user. I support the proposed ordinance. It strikes an appropriate balance between meaningful water conservation and the ability and continuing to give water consumers the ability to keep smart landscapes growing. This ordinance allows Sacramento to build a culture of water conservation and leave behind the on-again, off-again policy of addressing the issue every time a water supply emergency comes up. It's human nature to forget after it starts to rain and snow our water conservation options. What this ordinance helps to do is to keep water conservation in focus and in the public eye and straight up and ahead of us. It wasn't that long ago that Sacramentans were, unfortunately, the water gluttons of urban California. And that unmeasured water consumption was almost a birthright. This ordinance will help Sacramento become a leader in long-term water conservation. And I'm quite frankly excited about the prospect of Sacramento leading the way in the years to come. So please vote aye. When the next drought comes, we will all be ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Very much nice to see you.
And our last speaker is Ray Vanderwolf.
Good evening again, everyone. I'm super excited to be talking in favor of something, so yay! As someone who just recently bought a home and going to be staying in District 6 with Eric Guerra, it's really, I knew some things about water conservation. I have my master's in water resource management, my undergrad as well as in environmental sciences. So to hear that you guys are continuing to push that is really great. My things that I hope that the city does a really great job of outreach, because I know a lot of times I'm having a hard time, and I have a degree in it, understanding exactly what the city wants and making sure that those who maybe don't have either the education or the income to really have a chance to utilize these do get to use this as well, because a lot of low-income families do have lawns and they either want to keep them or they want to have nice landscaping in front of their house, and they really need the ability to do so. I know you guys have lots of programs to help, but I'm really excited to hear, and I hope to see lots of those programs really going on and really reaching out to those communities who are going to need them and the community as a whole. I'm also, part of me, as the scientist in me, is really happy to hear that we're conserving water. Because yes, the drought, in a sense, is over, but our groundwaters have been greatly depleted, and the fact that we are saving and allowing more percolation and things of that nature makes me extremely happy. And deep groundwatering does help with percolation into our groundwater, which is also extremely exciting to me. So on my final note, so that we can hopefully get all wrapped up, is thank you guys for continuing to save water and helping make us a greener city, as well as I did appreciate that the watering was restricted mostly for grass and that landscaping did get to have more watering as needed for trees and things. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's the public testimony. We do have members of the City Council, obviously want to weigh in on an important proposed policy change here. Let me begin with Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank Mr. Busafe and Mr. Pfeiffer for bringing forth this ordinance. We've talked about this over a long period of time, and I think that there's lots of aspects to this ordinance that are really excellent. But I agree that I don't think a lot of people fully understand what this ordinance says, so I'd like to make a little bit of clarification. The impetus to bring this ordinance out is the need to focus on how we adapt to climate change and to set ourselves up for success in the future, as well as be good stewards of our water resources. This is really about an education campaign to ensure long-term resiliency in periods of drought. This isn't about punishing people for watering their lawns or restricting the tools that you need to keep your landscape healthy and verdant. I know this from personal experience because I'm a homeowner, I have a landscape, and I've kept it alive through this last 4 years of very intense drought. This ordinance, I want to go through a couple of aspects of it so that people clearly understand what it means. When we say hand watering is exempt, that means you can use a hose, a nozzle, you can spray your yard, you can do what you feel you need to keep your plants alive and healthy without restrictions on days of the week. You can hook a movable sprinkler to a hose. If you water, say, with your automatic sprinklers 2 days a week, if you have a spot that you think is dry, you can hook an oscillating sprinkler to a hose, and without worry about the day of the week, you can water, and you can hit that dry spot. There's no restrictions on drip irrigation, which are, those tools are by far the best ones to use to get real deep watering around the root zone of a tree to encourage deep rooting, which is how we make our trees resilient in a drought. One of the reasons our trees suffered in this last drought is because we've been so frequently sprinkling them, shallow watering, repeated shallow watering. Many of our trees have grown with fan root systems that are very shallow and can't access deep water. So we need to change that paradigm. Just, you know, in a period of drought, we've encouraged other behaviors like using low-flow toilets, which has been a fantastic tool to lower our gallons of water per capita per day. These tools are available to you to use to keep your landscape healthy. It doesn't apply to an edible landscape. If you have a vegetable garden, you can water it to your heart's content, whatever that vegetable garden needs, and they tend to be thirstier than most landscape plants. As stated before, in a heat wave, we can water extra to keep our plants alive and healthy. But here's one thing that wasn't talked about very much, which is smart controllers. So this ordinance is really about restricting watering of grass with automatic sprinklers on a controller that is not a smart controller. A lot of people don't know what a smart controller is, and quite frankly, I didn't quite comprehend it myself. A smart controller is a time clock, like you might have on your auto sprinklers currently, but it has other accessories as well. It's more flexible in terms of the timing of when you set it, so you can do more sprinkles in a single day at intervals so that you get the water to go down deeper. That's a big quality that really can help maintain grass. As well as that, it has a moisture sensor that you can put in the ground to read out what the soil moisture actually is. So if your grass needs water, that sprinkler will come on. Understand that if you have a smart controller, you're not restricted to days of the week. And if that smart controller tells you that your lawn needs the water, it can go on, and you will not be fined or cited because you're actually meeting the actual need, not the perceived need, but the actual need of your grass and landscape. Droughts happen very regularly. I'm looking right here at a graph that shows drought periods from 1921 to 2017, and dry periods have occurred almost every 5 years. over this period of time. And our computer models tell us that as we go into climate change, we're going to have more severe droughts followed by very extreme rain episodes that are not what we want. It's what's really best for our lawns is if we have regular rainstorms, not really severe thunderstorms that just dump a pile of rain and create runoff, which is essentially what overwatering with sprinklers, auto sprinklers is. It creates a lot of runoff and therefore a lot of waste. This ordinance gives you all the tools you need to keep your landscape alive, healthy, and drought resilient. I agree with some of the speakers, Ms. Rossi, Mr. Todd. We do need to do a very concentrated education campaign so that people understand what tools are available to them and change their behavior only just slightly, really. This is not a restrictive ordinance. This is really a way to save yourself time and save yourself money as we get into the period where water meters come online. You will already have the tools in place to be able to save gallons of use and therefore money on your utility bill. There's a lot that's good about this. There's another two things I need to tell you. The city already has a rebate program for smart controllers up to $400 to reimburse you for the purchase of your smart controller. The average of smart controllers is $250. What that means is the city is just about saying, we're willing to buy you a smart controller. A smart controller will make your life a lot easier. If that's not enough, we have a Cash for Grass program. We will give you $1 per square foot to take out turf and put in water-thrifty perennials. So there's a lot that is good about this ordinance. I really appreciate all the very intelligent comments by the speakers tonight. I was quite surprised by that. I wasn't sure, what the support would be for this ordinance. A lot of people have called me and say, what are you talking about? This is the wettest year in recorded history, and you want to restrict watering? It's not restrictive. You can keep your grass alive if you just make use of these tools. So we will do a very concentrated education campaign. We've actually started during the drought. I myself gave several workshops on creating drip systems to water trees and nurse them through the drought in collaboration with the Tree Foundation. And we were very successful in educating a number of residents in my district about how to keep trees alive in the drought. And there's no doubt in my mind that for very little money, people saved their trees and they came through quite well. So I know I've waxed a little long. I want to make a motion, and my motion is this, that we accept staff recommendation on this ordinance with the following changes. First, I'd like to stipulate that fees are not increased in this ordinance from what they were previously. Because the fees, yes, the fines for violation. So there's no need for those, because if people adapt and use these tools, they will not be running water into the gutters. They will not be in violation. They'll get control of their landscapes and things will go fine. I'd like to direct staff, say over the next 2 or 3 months, to bring back the cleanup language concerning tree health, concerning the recommendations from landscape folks and the Tree Foundation, because I think that those are valuable additions to the ordinance. I'd also like to ask that we not enforce this ordinance. We do need a period here to educate people. I'd like to say that we do not enforce this ordinance until it goes into effect in the next period in 2018. Understand these restrictions are only during daylight savings time, so when daylight kicks in 2018, that would be the period at which we enforce. So it gives us time to educate the public on how to use these very specific tools to keep their landscapes in good health. And last, any fines that we get, any fees that we get from violations, I would like to use those to supplement our Cash for Grass program and also to bolster the amount of money that we have for smart controllers. People have criticized us saying, we're just doing this to gather revenue for the city. Nothing could be farther from the truth. We're not making money off of the ordinance either in the extreme drought conditions or moving forward with this ordinance. But what fines we do collect it makes perfect sense to me to just roll it back into getting people to use these excellent tools that are available to them. So that's the summation of my motion. And
Is that, are you amending the ordinance then? Or are those specific amendments, or those are just
yes,
intent?
some are direct changes to the ordinance,
Okay.
and some is direction to staff to bring back language.
Okay, understood. Mr. Director, very good. There's a motion and a second. Point of order, Mr. Hanson.
I believe we did a council rule change that said any ordinance amendments had to be in writing if they were at the dais. Is that not correct?
That is correct, and those would also be referred back if they're substantive. If they're non-substantive, they can be explained on the floor, then they can be considered by the council.
Do we have a provision to waive that for circumstances?
Council has the ability to waive the rules by a majority vote.
Okay.
Or either that or the chair can interpret the amendments as essentially consistent with the intent of the ordinance and relatively non-substantive. We could do it either way. If it would require if you want to waive the rules, so to speak, to then allow the amended motion to be taken, I'm fine with that too, if that's a cleaner way to do it. That's a clean.
The only reason I asked, excuse me, from a point of order standpoint, is I think it'd be helpful to the public to actually see the amendments in writing, in a red line, like we've had to do on previous things. And so, however we do that before we vote is what I would.
We're not going to have a red line tonight, so it's up to, I mean, we have a couple options. Councilman Harris, we can put the vote off for a week. That's permissive. That would be fine. We can waive the rule about amendments in print as a motion before we take up the main motion. That's an option as well.
Mr. Mayor, one option I would like to suggest is Councilmember Harris has directed staff to come back with cleanup language.
Yeah.
Can we not just include the start time and those changes in
That's another way, Councilman Harris. If you're willing to amend your original motion to just pass what's recommended with the promise that staff comes back with the cleanup in a week or two, we could do it that way as well. What's your preference? You're the maker of the motion.
I think that's the best way to proceed, so I'll make a different motion.
Okay.
But I would like to say that this, again, is instructive, that we didn't have a clear discussion at Law and Ledge where we could have worked through all of these issues. And I think, again, we found that a robust discussion before things come to council is a good way to proceed. So my motion would be to accept staff recommendation now, but have direction to come back with all the other stipulations that I made in my original motion. And Bill, you know what those are. You captured them all. So that is my motion, to accept what's before us and then come back in a week or 2 weeks' time, whatever is required.
Okay. So he's moving the staff recommendation, period. No amendments. He's asking the director to come back in a couple weeks with the amendments that he referenced orally to be discussed by the council. It's not complicated. What do you need?
And I would just recommend that be maybe a couple of months instead of a couple of weeks. We're going to want to take that through Law and Ledge.
That's perfectly fine with me to have
couple months, maybe
that come back.
Between weeks and a couple months, a month and a half.
The fact of the matter is that the reason I made those amendments was to allow time for education, so this fits right in line. We have time to educate, we have time to incorporate the language that our really worthy partners have suggested. So this all fits fine. Let's pass the ordinance before us.
One point of order.
Point of order by Councilmember
This is just a
Ashby.
point of order. I don't believe it should go back to Law and Ledge, but to your newly formed water ad hoc.
That's a very good point. We do have a water ad hoc.
But I suggested.
I'm sorry, not water ad hoc, water standing committee.
Water standing. You're right. Thank you for reminding me that last week I made the monumental decision to appoint a water committee, and I think that is the proper place to refer this back. So that's the way it'll be. But what's on the floor is the staff recommendation, period, with a gentle person's understanding and a direction that we're going to come back with some of the issues that Councilmember Harris has raised a moment ago. And there's a second. Is it? It's been seconded by Councilmember Hanson. Now we'll get to Councilmember Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of questions, and I just want to, I like the way the discussion was going. My initial thoughts were that I wouldn't support the staff's recommendation based on concerns I had and things I've heard from constituents in District 2. With the amendments, I think I had gotten comfortable with the things that Councilman Harris had proposed to amend the ordinance, such as not increasing the fines. I think these fines become very impactful in lower-income communities, communities that may not be as quick to be educated about this process. You know, sometimes, and I like the comment about the essentially the grace period of moratorium, because it would give us the time to get out into these communities and really give people a firm understanding of what the changes are. So I, you know, one of the things I can see as being somewhat of a point that would need some clarity is the fact that, you know, at least the people that call my office believe that there were no exceptions to the 2-day watering. So, you know, the fact that, you know, you could hand water, the fact that you could target water, troubled areas, that was very concerning to people, and particularly who, you know, and I'm sensitive in my district because we're trying to keep those homes and properties that look really nice. We want to keep those, and we want to expand that throughout our district. And there was some concern that we were going to have more unkept yards and brown and rundown yards without having the ability to water. And so I think the fact that that, you know, being able to sprinkle, being able to hand water, as well as the drip irrigation is helpful. The thing that I'm still not clear on, though, is the enforcement mechanism. So how do we, you know, how do we determine who gets the fines if they're watering on a non-specified water day? You know, and say, you know, they're either hand watering or an inspector goes by the house and they see water that is run off their yard and down the, you know, the drain or the culvert or whatever it might be in our district. You know, how would an enforcement officer know how to find somebody on a non-water day?
So I'm going to take a stab at this, and then I may defer to Jim Pfeiffer. But basically, our staff that goes out and enforces these, they know what days people are supposed to be watering on, because it's simple based on their, you know, based on their address number, whether it be odd or even. Certainly, if somebody is, and they'll just know. I mean, if somebody's watering by hand or watering by a sprinkler on the end of the hose, they'll know that those are not subject to the restrictions from, you know, the time and day restrictions.
I mean, but if they don't see it, obviously if you see somebody out in their front yard and they're sprinkling their yard and they see it, that's one thing. But if they are going through doing inspections and there's, you know, the grass is wet or there's water, you know, some water that clearly can be demonstrated that you know, they were either watering their lawn or other planted areas.
And again, any sprinkler that's attached to a hose, that's, you know, that's under the hand watering, you know, part of this ordinance. And so it is exempt. One thing that we still will not tolerate, or and will try to educate residents not to do, is not to overwater, you know, no matter how they're watering. And so if we have water that's flowing off of a lawn into the garden, you know, into the gutter, then we're going to work with those people to try to help them and educate them so that they won't do that.
But I can just see a gray area there, and I'm glad we're going to work with them. I can see a gray area where people are going to say they're either watering with a sprinkler or watering with a hose, and all of a sudden you get, you know, they get a fine, and they're going to be disputing.
Well, and
No,
we.
I mean, I'm just saying, it's an issue I think needs a little bit more work, so I'd like to see the language come back. I'm not going to support the recommendation tonight, but I think as it comes back and there's more clarity, I'm happy to support it. I do believe that water conservation is a big issue, but I want to balance it out with some of the goals that we have in our community as well. We're trying to maintain, the yards and the aesthetics that we're trying to really demonstrate in District 2, which, I'm not sure how we compare to the rest of the districts, but we probably have one of the drier districts, I would think, in the entire city. So, but thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Ashby.
Thanks, Mayor. This is one of those ordinances I'm probably with Alan, and I'd be willing to bet Councilmember Carr has some of the same thoughts, where it's kind of disproportionate how it's implements, because if you do have one of the drier parts of the city, you can hear from people differently. But I let them speak for themselves, of course. For me, it's a hard one, and I've shared some of this with you. I think it's really noble work by our staff, and I've had the opportunity to represent the city on some statewide boards for water, including Aqua, and I do think the things that you heard from some of the folks in the room tonight who I've had an opportunity to work with too are true. I'm not going to say they're fair labels that Sacramento's had over the last few years, but it's true that they've had those labels. On the other hand, I think Sacramento sometimes gets unfairly burdened by state agencies because of our proximity and because of that label. So it's important to address that. But I also think we've done so much. We've come so far. We were easily the city that did the most about conservation in the state of California, and we got a lot of acknowledgement for that. Other cities did good things too, like Purple Pipe in San Diego and other things, but sometimes it's easier when you're on the coastline and your climate is different than it is when you're in Sacramento where it's hot. In my part of the world of Sacramento, everything's new. So nothing existed before 1990. There are no trees the size of River Park or Curtis Park or Tahoe Park or Land Park or Pocket Greenhaven for that matter. It's not shady yet. It will be someday, but it's not there. And it is hard to keep the grass alive, even with 2 days and even with experts, master gardeners, people who know a lot about watering, and our own team going out and working with these communities. I appreciate very much some of the, I want to call them variances, not exemptions, but variances like smart meters. And I would point to the one that I know will get some help from this, which is Heritage Park. Heritage Park entered into an agreement with the city and split the cost of some smart meters, so they are able to take in some scientific information about the climate that affects their watering schedule. I really think that should be our end goal for everyone. I would rather we weren't guessing at which gardener is right, which scientist is right, but actually used science to make these decisions. And what I mean by that is I think smart meters around the city should be our goal. And there might be a way that the city, in fact, can be a better part of that. Another issue here is that my district has meters and has had meters. Everybody that bought their home new got a meter. So they've been paying for their water consumption, and that's true in other parts of Natomas too, outside of my district, like Roca, where Mr. Brady is from. They have meters. They're paying for that higher water use. So that rule where we talk about, the traditional places in Sacramento that don't have meters yet doesn't apply to these homes. They've been paying for that. I think that our efforts would be better put towards marketing and education campaigns. I like that Mr. Harris is suggesting that we not enforce for the first year, but I think if you don't enforce at all for the first year, or at least don't give out warnings or something, all it will be is new next year instead of new this year. So you'll have to do something during that year, that really lets people know, hey, we're not enforcing this year, but had we been, you would have gotten a ticket today, or this or that or the other thing. I also agree that People in Sacramento cannot afford fees and fines for having their water on 3 days instead of 2 days. So we had, and I'm sure you still have in here, the option of the course and taking a class the first time, and that's smart. I think that's good. Then no one should ever really have to pay unless they're just, being obstructionist about it. I don't like rules that are overly restrictive and assume that our community would be bad actors unless we put punitive regulations in place. So I would rather see us incentivize people only doing 2 days. Obviously, it can't be measured except for at the homes that have meters, but we could figure that out. And we have talked about it in the past, incentives for people who reduce their water usage, and leave it to them over what's best for their water usage, whether they go get appliances or they change their outdoor watering habits or they buy soaker hoses or whatever they do. I think people in Sacramento are capable and smart and can do it if we offer the incentive and the education components for them to do so. So this feels punitive to me. Another issue in my district that is very difficult to remedy, and I've asked for a little bit of help, and I think when we go back to the water committee, we can talk about it a little bit more, but I have a lot of homeowners associations in my district, and they are held to varying standards. They all just received letters recently saying that their HOA is going to go back to fining them for having dead lawns. At the same time that the city is taking up an ordinance to say you can only water your front lawn twice a week, they're confused by that. And when the governor had a mandate, then the HOAs were forced to lift their regulation. I don't believe the same is true at the city level with an option where we are imposing it. And that's something we need to look into, and maybe Mr. Sanchez would help us. But people in my community, and I mean tens of thousands of them, are going to have those competing regulations hanging over them. So I need to understand what to tell them when they call my office and say, I got a ticket because my lawn has a few brown spots around the edges, and I am watering 2 days a week. I don't know which thing I'm supposed to do here. So I need some solutions for them there. I know that the utilities department has offered to maybe go out and visit people's homes, but there are 60,000 people in my district. There are probably at least 20,000 homes in HOAs. That's a lot of home visits. So if we're going to do that, it's going to mean that this body needs to increase the amount of money given to the utilities department for the home visiting program, because it's not big enough to get to all those people. So I'm not going to support it tonight, but I'm going to try to keep my mind open enough that if we can work on it a little bit more in the water committee and address a few of these issues, that perhaps, like Councilmember Warren, when it comes back, enough of them would be addressed for me to be supportive. I think the end goal is a good one, but breaking it down by days is probably not the best way to incentivize working with our community. I'd rather have them work off of reductions based on their meter usage.
Thank you. Member Rashby, Councilmember Guerra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I think for me, the decision's pretty clear. If we don't pass this today, then you want 2 days of watering and with no variances at all, because then the status quo would be we still stay at 2 days. If we pass it today, we're basically saying we believe in water conservation and we are willing to try a different approach to education and figuring out how to maintain a strong standard and a good reputation for Sacramento. And let me tell you, my lawn has been taking a beating, and just ask my neighbors, it's not looking as good as I could. So it is a challenge. So I like the fact that we're trying something here. I'm going to support it today, but I do want us to take a look at this in 1 year and figure out how did it go. Because, if you don't have a system of timing it, or you don't have a lawn that you've scheduled for it, or you don't have a new smart meter that in one of the examples here is that can change measure the moisture content in there, then that doesn't apply to you. What I do like about it is that it doesn't have any restrictions for hand watering and the rotational watering, which we've seen data, correct me if I'm wrong, that it's a more effective use of our water. Now, having a nice lawn for me is important, whatever, just because I want my house to look nice. But I do take the issue of water seriously because I remember when our well collapsed right across the river and we didn't have water for, I think it was like 3 months. And so the issue of what we do for water is critical. Not only that, but if other cities want to go to 3-day watering or even more, none, which I think is irresponsible, then they can deal with the issues of subsidence. They can deal with the issues of water table issues. They can deal with the issues of saltwater intrusion if they live close to the coast. And I think that's irresponsible. So I think for us to try to be proactive and to think about ways we can be more water conscious, I think this idea of having a water committee and having this constant conversation is important. And it's a better time to do it now where we're not under the threat of state overregulation. But there's still, like anything, we have to work the kinks out. Because I know if you go in the south part of my district, it's a tough area. I also know that we haven't done a good job of educating people about the resources that we do have. I didn't know that we had a rebate for the gray water with your to convert your washing machine. And correct me if I'm wrong, how much is that? Is that like $500 or something like that, or?
I don't know the exact cost.
$150 for the conversion kit, plus another for your improvement. So there's money out there for that, but who's getting that information? Right now, the only people who I think are getting that information are those who are overly aware of these issues, maybe have the time and resources to go out and look for it on our website. When I tried looking for it on our website, I think it was a little challenging to find an easy way. So I like the idea of us waiting for a year to do the enforcement and focusing on education, and making sure we actually go to the harder to reach places, that don't have that aren't aware of these tools. So I'll also close with that. I do hope that we adopt some of the recommendations brought over by Green Acres and the Tree Foundation. My concern also here with this experiment is that the risk is our tree canopy. So I want to make sure that we're doing the appropriate outreach, that we clearly state that there is no restrictions for watering your trees. What we do today by voting on this today is we're saying you can water your tree every day. Do it responsibly in the best way for the tree, which is through deep soaking so you create a strong, healthy root structure. Because we do have an issue with our tree canopy. Again, if you go to the south area in Sacramento, in my district, you see we have a heat island effect because our tree canopy has died there. That we haven't had maintenance in our trees. And in fact, I'd like to see, and I'm not going to put this as a council directive, but I'd like to see our rental inspection program to start looking at a lot of those rental properties and to make sure that those property owners are appropriately taking care of the trees that are there. Because what's happened to many of those trees is that the property owners have not taken care and made those trees healthy, and so then they've died. And if you look at the income level and the tree canopy, they correlate. And you look at the health impacts, they correlate. When it's hot outside and kids can't, go out on their bikes, then their health impacts are affected. So I do want to take this to heart very seriously, the issue of how this ordinance is going to affect our tree canopy. I had an interesting question brought to me last week. Well, I've got an old heritage tree. Am I supposed to do a drip line that's 20 feet wide? How do we deal with that issue? I think we need to be able to help those folks who've got a large tree, because the one in the picture was nice, but I think the diameter on that was like 2 inches. So, I could put a little soaker hose around that one. So I'd like to figure that out. But I strongly encourage that we move this today, just because I think that by acting today, we take that step forward. We've already made a commitment here. Well, I've heard the Councilmember Harris make a commitment to work on cleanup language to make this even better and tighter. And we're doing two things. We're relaxing the regulations so that we can have a beautiful, lush community, but being very thoughtful about how important water is and how much of a role we should take as the capital city. So with that, I hope everybody votes for this, and I think it's a good step forward.
Thank you, Councilman Guerra. Finally, Councilmember Carr, then I'm going to have a closing comment. Do you
Well,
want
I
to
guess-
clarify the issue that Councilmember Guerra raised?
Yeah, Councilmember Guerra stated that if we don't pass these ordinance changes, we would go to 2-day-a-week watering without the exemptions. If we don't pass the ordinance changes, it would revert back to 3-day-a-week watering. Yeah.
Would revert back to 3 days. Okay, so that's good
But
clarity.
with this ordinance, you could water every day if you use the hand water.
That's right. 2 days with the exceptions. The exceptions would not kick in if it went back to 3, absent the ordinance.
That's correct.
Thank you,
Councilmember
Mr.
Carr.
Mayor. And thank you, Bill, for the education on watering. And Councilmember Harris, I saw your video on watering trees, very informative. I'm not a tree or grass expert, but I have played golf. That's some gardening, isn't it, when we do it?
You replace divots.
Yeah. And what I noticed on the golf course is that they have bent grass, they have Kentucky bluegrass, they have Bermuda grass, they have fescue, they have ryegrass, and a whole bunch of other grasses, and they water them all on a different schedule. And all over my district, I'm not sure everyone has the same kind of grass that you have, where you can only water once or not even at all during the summer and not have your lawn burned out, because mine burned out. And I have 3 trees in my lawn. Bill, the outreach that you are proposing comes with the price, comes with the cost. How much is that?
I'd have to get back to you on exact costs. I know we have budgeted significant money for our rebate programs and our incentive programs. We also have several consultants under contract for education and outreach. I'd have to say probably in the $300,000 to $500,000 range total.
That was included in
outreach.
the budget we just passed?
Say that one more time.
Was that in the budget that we just passed in June?
Yes. Am I misspeaking here, Jim? Sorry? Am I misspeaking here?
No.
Good evening. I'm Jim Pfeiffer with the Utilities Department. We have a contract coming to council in the very near future for $300,000 or thereabouts for an outreach consultant called Sagent.
And is that going to be sufficient to contact all the people in Sacramento and teach them about this new ordinance, as well as how to water, as well as to put in these smart controllers? Or will you be back with an additional request?
That remains to be seen. I mean, we're gonna try to do this smart with, we're not going to be visiting every home, but we will be doing our WaterWise house calls. We're going to be doing a lot of social media. We're going to be doing a lot of outreach and education at community events and at workshops. And we're going to have to monitor how well our outreach is going and decide whether we need to ramp it up or whether we're at a good level.
Will you have a firmer cost when you bring the revised policy back, ordinance back?
I think that as we go through the year, we're going to be able to see the sufficiency of the efforts that we're proposing. We may need to make some adjustments at mid-year. I think that when we come back in a couple of months, what we're going to be focusing on is the recommendations that Councilmember Harris talked about. We certainly, I've written down in my book here, outreach, outreach, outreach. Everybody has said that. And so we understand how critical that is, and we are prepared to start that, and then we're going to have to evaluate how we're doing as we move forward on that to see if our efforts are sufficient. I think that's the best answer I could give you for right now.
So we're just going to play it by ear and see how it goes.
Well, we're gonna play it by ear, but aggressively.
Aggressively play
we
it by
understand clearly how important this is.
And you mentioned...
Councilmember Carr, if I may, one of the aspects of the cleanup language that I was suggesting was an annual reevaluation of where we're at with the program. So just so you know that that's going to be one of the things we'll be discussing.
Appreciate it. But I hope you can appreciate that I have to vote on something that I don't know what it's going to cost to be successful. You mentioned that we needed to also, to make this program successful, expand our incentives on changing out the landscaping to get drought-tolerant landscaping. How much is that going to cost? And is that something that's already in the budget, or do you have to come back with an additional request?
We already have budget for that in this year's budget. I think it's in the $300,000 to $400,000 range that we have budgeted for our river-friendly landscape program. I know Councilmember Harris has not necessarily here, but we've been encouraged to think about raising the amount per square foot that we offer to make that a more enticing or incentive.
But we haven't costed out a program on that?
Yes. All of that, everything that we've talked about as far as our incentives and rebates is fully budgeted for FY18.
But when you say increase the incentives, make it more robust, that kind of implies that we're going to do something different than what we're doing now.
I think that what we're talking about is possibly increasing the incentive, or at least per square foot, but we're also talking about, during the drought, we were pretty focused on enforcement. Our river-friendly landscape program was pretty successful, especially initially, but we need to outreach that better. And that's part of our contract with the consultant, is to specifically focus on how we can get that word out to the residents better so that they can take full advantage of those incentive programs.
And when did that start? They haven't reached my house yet.
We'll get there soon. I think we just got the contract under place, and so, in the next several months, we'll be aggressively outreaching.
Okay. Someone mentioned tiered rates. As I understand it from the Public Utilities Commission, we can't do that anymore because it's cross-subsidizing. Is that true with our water?
No, that's not true.
We can do tiered rates?
We can do tiered rates. We are in the process right now of a study. We have a consultant that is going to recommend a tiered rate structure to us. It will probably be several years before we bring that to council, but tiered rates are definitely on our radar screen. How that ends up and what we actually end up recommending to council is still up in the air with regard to tiered rates. But it is something that we're aggressively pursuing as far as a study and a recommendation from consultants.
Yeah, my understanding was that utilities could only charge the cost of providing the product. But you guys are looking at it, so.
Well, I can respond to that. That is very true. The tiered rate structure has to have a nexus to costs. And our consultants are going to be making recommendations as to what those tiers would be, because we can include things like conservation costs and other kinds of costs in that tiered rate structure. We're not going to have something like San Juan Capistrano where we had, I'm just throwing something out, $1 up to a certain range and then $3 for, after that. There has to be a nexus to costs in order for it to be legally defensible.
My primary concern with this ordinance is, and I mentioned it to you the other day, is it seems kind of convoluted. There are a lot of different things. And as I mentioned to Councilmember Jennings, when you're dealing with the public like this, you want to keep it kind of simple. Red means stop, green means go. And we have all of these carve-outs for hand watering. I don't know how you're going to know if someone has a smart controller in their garage to enforce that. And all of the carve-outs make it very, just kind of hard to understand exactly what it is, what our policy is, and it's going to make the outreach much more difficult. And aside from that, what Councilmember Harris asked you to bring back was ordinance that did not include the fees being raised. But what we're voting on tonight are the fees being raised. So I won't be able to support this tonight, but I'll get some better understanding before this comes back and see if I can get in a position to support it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I have a lengthy speech to give here. Just very briefly, look at, I think this is a well-crafted measure because it actually provides the incentives for conservation while giving our residents plenty of options to maintain their lawns and their plants. The idea that if you use a smart controller, you can have a ground irrigation system that actually waters your front and back more than 2 days a week. That is a significant change. That there's no restriction on hand watering, that car washing is exempt if the shutoff nozzle is being used. In other words, that you can water vegetable gardens, that if it's 100 degrees or more, has it ever been 100 degrees in Sacramento? If it's 100 degrees or more for 2 consecutive days, it does not apply until the heat wave is over. That is a lot of flexibility. But the thing that really strikes me about this and why I think it was sort of courageous in a way for the staff to bring forward this proposal, because you could have gone the other way. You know, I love this city, proud to be its mayor. But let's be honest. It's no accident or coincidence, excuse me, that Sacramentans resisted water meters for a lot of years. No, it's true. I mean, we've believed and fought for our 1903 or whatever they had water rights for a long time. And that's right, and that's fine. We should fight to make sure that our water is protected. But the truth of the matter is that this drought may be over for now, but oh my God, look at this summer and look what's happening with the climate. This is about climate change. I'm sorry. If we think we're going to be able to rely on the same water stability over the next years and decades as this fundamental climate shift is happening, we're wrong. And so better that we change the culture now in a modest way, really in a modest way, given all of these exceptions and exemptions. I would not be comfortable going the other way. So I commend you. I think it's balanced. It's flexible, but it also makes the right statement and continues to point us in the right direction, and I'm strongly in favor of it. So we've got a motion and a second, understanding what may come back in 7 weeks or something like that. Let's call the roll instead of the yeas and nays. Let's call the roll one by one on the motion. Okay? Good.
Councilmember Ashby? No. Councilmember Warren? No. Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson? Aye. Councilmember Carr?
No.
Vice Mayor Jennings?
Yes.
Councilmember Guerra?
Aye.
Councilmember Chenier? Aye. And Mayor Steinberg.
Aye. 6-3?
Correct.
The motion passes. Very good. That's the end of our agenda, and I know that all members will use their social media to advertise their weekend events this weekend. And if there's nothing further to come before, is that okay? If there's nothing further to come before the City Council, we're adjourned.